There's a warehouse company that's hiring staff, and they can't employ any English people, even though it's in England, because they have to have a quota of overseas staff.
Excellent.
And they've got loads and loads of English applicants, including graduates and people like that. But because they're English, they can't employ them. And they're really desperate. They're thinking, what are we going to do? And then suddenly, at the end of the day, a little Chinese fella turns up, and he can barely speak English or understand. And they say, perfect. So they say, you got the job, and you start on Monday, and you're in supplies. So, okay, Monday comes, and 8 o'clock in the morning, no sign of the Chinese fella. 9 o'clock, they decided because people said that they've seen him around. Strange. So they go out and round a warehouse and looking around, and suddenly he jumps out from behind a pallet and says, "Supplies." Here we go. Where are we? Now, that's strange. We're not on the screen. I don't know quite what. Oh, hang on a minute. I've got to proceed. Here we go. We're on the screen. Hey! So tonight's guest is Nathan Allenby. And also we got Paul English on as well. So good evening, Nathan. And
Hello, good evening.
And also good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Nathan. Good evening, Eric. Hi, good to be here.
And did you see the red moon last night? Because I didn't. And did you see it, Nathan, the red moon?
Red not.
Oh, well, that's nice. Anyway.
No, it was white down here, Eric. It was just white.
Really?
You've got a communist moon, have you? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, comrades. We got the communist moon, and there we go.
Grief.
And we got Aunt Sally in chat. So good evening, Aunt Sally. And she's first one on tonight, as last night she was first one on. Very, very keen. So you can, Aunt Sally, you can have a raspberry and two-finger salute to any politician or celebrity of your choice. So there we go. We got James Nunes. Good evening. Oh, I read. It's Fockham Hall, you see. Good evening, Fockers, you see. And Paul. Hello, Paul. And we've got Hachi. Love to you all. And Aunt Sally says the moon was white here too. So there we go.
Yeah, we've got an ethnically proper moon where we live, Eric. I don't know what's going on over. Yeah. Me and Aunt Sally, we're doing great. I don't know what's going on there.
Well, I don't know what colour it was, because I didn't bleed and see it last night. So, but anyway, on with the show. Thank you. Last night we was talking about the Fabian Society and an outline of who Fabian was and what it was named after. And I save sort of repeating it all. I'll be very, very brief. Fabian was in the Roman army. I think he was a general or something. And his technique was to retreat and have little battles where it wears the enemy down, and retreat and have more little battles. And then what happens is once you've worn the enemy down, you pounce on them. And this is what the Fabian Society is doing in this country. And the way I look at it, it's like a tree. The trunk is the Masons, and the branches going out are the Fabians, Common Purpose, World Economic Forum, and all the other branches going out as actors are kind of misdirection. But the Fabians, the amount of people that are in the Fabian Society, our Prime Minister is, the Chancellor of Exchequer is, or was, she's walked out. And the fact is that they are very instrumental in the collapse of this country. Very instrumental in it. And it's working to treat. And before we go any further, this is extremely important. Aunt Sally would like, here it is. Oops, hang on. Where are we? Aunt Sally, she would actually like Can I pick the king for my raspberry salute? Certainly, Aunt Sally. To the king. So there we go. So a little bit of immaturity. We've got that over and done with.
Really?
So,
I didn't think that was that immature.
Well, I'm very immature, really, Right, anyway, Nathan, I believe you're going to give us a little resume of what you're going to talk about tonight. So we sit back. I hope you've all got the popcorn ready and the cup of tea. I've got my mug here, so fire away. Over to you.
So, what must be obvious to everyone at the moment is the nation's at a flashpoint. Everyone's up a height. They have a sense that it's going to be now or never. This is the breaking point. Either something changes or we're beaten. And there's a sense of desperation. It's not just that people are anxious about their future. They're actually feeling desperate. So that's one thing. The government's failing. They're absolutely going to break the social contract. Going to do away with pensions, retire well over 70, charge for the NHS, do away with most welfare benefits, and there's a great deal more besides. People can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. They're getting desperate. So, and into all of this, we've got this Tommy Robinson rally on Saturday, and that is shaping up to be something potentially very ugly. So I know that tens of thousands of riot police are being sent from all over the country to be present at that rally this weekend. And they've been training for a year for exactly this sort of thing, the way they were training before the miners' strike. And so they're all geared up for something rather dramatic. I know that I wouldn't like to be there. And a couple of my friends have said that they're going to go. I have tried to warn them. It's probably not a good place to be. So the first thing is, I'm not sure whether or not Tommy Robinson is the sort of guy that I would really want to support. And I know he has been called a Zionist provocateur. What we need to be mindful of is what we should be achieving and what we want to avoid. So at the minute, the government has alienated both left and right. The only way they can succeed at the moment is by divide and rule. And they have to create some sort of massive conflict between left and right. Now, I know that these recent anti-migrant protests have been something of a mixed bag, and some of the things that people have done have been, shall we say, rather ill-advised, not things that I would have done. But the government has been deliberately provoking them. For example, we've seen the police escorting so-called, anti-racism, Antifa demonstrators to come and effectively provoke the other demonstrators and get them arrested. Well, what are the chances something like that's going to happen this Saturday? What are the chances that there are going to be perhaps a few thousand of those turning up for a replay of the Battle of Cable Street in their mind? What we have to do, I hope, is not to play into stereotypes. So I know there are a lot of people on the left that we can't win over, the more radical people. But there's a lot of middle ground that we need to make some sort of peace with. We've got to make allies. So here, when I say we, I'm talking about everyone really who's concerned with what the government's doing and where the direction of policy is going at the minute. Now, later on, I'm going to talk about where I think we need to go. This, I think, is going to turn it into a very long and difficult campaign. And I think most people are probably going to be shocked at how violent and unpleasant events are going to be in the next year. I certainly don't want that. And I would advise everybody that we want peaceful, non-violent activity. It's the government that needs violence. At the minute, people may have heard of something called a strategy of tension. So a strategy of tension is where there's violence, where there's terrorism, everybody rallies around the government. And when there's violence, there can't be any discussion of any other issue but the violence. So all of the other pressing issues, like the social problems, the bankruptcy of the nation, the lack of credibility of the government, the fact it's broken all the promises, the fact it's mistreating the nation, that all gets put aside. And instead, all you can talk about is overcoming the violence and beating the thugs, or whatever they call it. Anyway, the point I would try and say is we must not fall into those stereotypes. We have got to be better than that. We must not allow ourselves to be mischaracterized.
But can I come in just now? I mean, but what about the agent provocateurs? Because they're
inevitably. I feel there's plenty of evidence that the police have been training for this. We've seen a few isolated videos that have come out of police training. It's hard to know what's going to happen, but I think past evidence, say if we look at things that happened in the G20 in 2009, the G20 protest, and several other protests in the past, alleged police provocateurs have been part of the scene. They've been part of the scene in rallies and protests throughout Europe during the COVID lockdown. It's a thing. They were part of the scene during the Yellow Vests protests in France before the COVID lockdown. Not just in France, but there were Yellow Vest protests in 19 different European countries before the lockdown stopped all of that. And I think there was a remarkably, how can I put it? There were remarkable patterns, consistencies amongst the police approach to all of this throughout Europe, unfortunately. Anyway, one of the things I'd like to talk about a bit later on, because this is where it goes naturally, is the spiritual revolution. And so in the past, I've talked to people who've actually lived under authoritarian regimes. For example, people who were dissidents under communism. And the lessons that they learned from all of that, how they survived, how they endured, and the things that they learned after communism, things that they learned when they were supposed to have found their freedom, under democracy. The lessons that they learned, and the most powerful lesson of all was the what we could call the spiritual revolution. And this is about eschewing, rejecting the politics of confrontation. It's about finding people that you can work with, about burying differences and finding common cause and alliances that you can make, people who believe in the same things and not attaching labels to it, looking at the solid reality of the things that matter and trying to make them happen. Not looking for government to do it for us, but trying to do it for ourselves. So that's something I hope to come to a little later on. So that's plenty to get started with, isn't it?
It certainly is. Can I ask you? I'll ask you a question. What do you mean by left? I mean, because we're all supposed to be far right, aren't we? I mean, Paul and I think you're far right, aren't you, Paul? I think you where you live in.
Yeah, I was plotting it on a
am.
chart. I've worked out that I'm extreme far right. That's 10 extremes.
Really? 10
Yeah.
extremes.
And
Well,
this
I
makes
had a
me
far right.
still not as left as the Labour Party from 1965. So
Really?
you've got to we've got a lot further right to go before we even get close to it. But
well,
yeah.
I had a left wing porridge today. That was very left, I think. So and
Porridge
a
is a
boiled
bit
egg.
liberal. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit soft,
yes,
Eric.
yes. And
You
the egg
didn't
was
have bacon for breakfast.
Well, I had a socialist egg. So
they're the best ones.
Yes, the socialist eggs,
They're very nice.
one out, all out.
They're
for the
even
chicken,
all round. I don't think they're egg shaped.
Right.
They're circular, so that they're equal on all sides. Because we can't have any inequality. Because that's
right.
That's not right. Yeah.
But no, actually, they, sort of serious though. What I mean, when you look at left and right, how do we? What is left now? I mean, you got the freakos with the multicoloured hair, and they're the what is it? The vegans who haven't had any meat, so they're very very angry. It's like this, and the loonies, and then you got the sort of like the Stephen Fry's, sort of smoke a pipe. They're sort of what I call champagne socialists. So, who are you actually aiming at? The champagne socialists? I mean, we can't aim at the loonies because they're just completely out their skull.
So I think Michael Hudson, the economist, wrote an article about 3 years ago saying we need a new political lexicon to describe the left. And the old terminology that used to describe the left was out of date. So, for example, the old left used to believe in equality. They used to believe in helping the poor. They used to believe in being anti-war, for example. And then we have the left, which is, for example, politically liberal. Pardon me. Politically liberal. And political liberalism somehow is not the same as the old-fashioned left. It's something else altogether. It's and funnily enough, modern liberalism is actually authoritarian too. It doesn't believe in helping the poor, and it believes in war, and but it believes in a whole load of strange things as well. The best way to describe it is there's a chap called Jeremy Bentham who lived at the end of the 18th century, and I think he helped found London University. His remains are mummified in London University. When he died, he was he had himself dissected and then preserved. And he's sitting in his best clothes and a hat in a corner of London University.
That's right.
For inspiration for the students. Anyway, Jeremy Bentham.
He's let himself go a bit recently, and I think,
he has.
He's the guy. Fell off. Isn't Bentham's the guy that designed the Panopticon, isn't he? The great surveillance prison.
Exactly so. And that was part of designing a workhouse. And Bentham was the inspiration behind the new Poor Law, which created the workhouses, and that was in the 1830s. That's into the 19th century. And a great sponsor of that law was John Stuart Mill, who's a great hero of Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer keeps on quoting John Stuart Mill as being this great philosopher of liberalism. So what do these liberals believe in? Well, they believed in things like women's rights, and they believed in gay rights. But that was all right if you were rich. I mean, for example, even back then, rich women had the vote, but men didn't. So women's rights were rights really for rich women, not for every woman. And the same thing with gay rights too. What that was about was a privilege for the rich. It wasn't something that ordinary people could enjoy. Anyway, it's amazing how all of that seems to have been transferred part and part, wholesale completely to modern liberalism and the left today. And liberalism and the left are not the same thing. They don't believe in helping the poor. They don't believe in equality. They just believe in anything goes, if you've got the money. So what is the modern left? I think it's a bundle of contradictions. That is the left. There is no real coherent ideology except hatred of ordinary people. Now, if you come back to the flag protests that are happening at the minute, what are they about? Well, basically, it's a protest saying we assert ourselves as British people. You can't say anything else, can you? What is the point of putting up, an English flag or a British Union flag? What is the point of that saying we're proud of being British? Well, why would you need to say that? Because the government is not proud of people who are British. The government doesn't like them at all. Now, hang on a minute, because people who are British are the majority of the population and the government hates them. Well, that's pretty anti-democratic, isn't it? If you hate the majority of people in the country for who they are, you couldn't be more anti-democratic. And, of course, there's this whole thing of a lot of people in the country, the posh liberals, politely snigger and agree with them. The reason why, there's a whole class of globalists in this country who are far too sophisticated to be merely British. And they think they're quite clever about all of this, but they think that they're comfortably transnational. And there's a lot of people out there who don't have the privilege of being transnational, and they feel pretty excluded at the minute. Unwanted, despised. That's what this protest is about. It's about a government that has repudiated the majority of the people. So what's happening with, say, for example, pick a subject. The government wants to send hundreds of billions to Ukraine for arms. And to do that, they're going to effectively abolish pensions. They're going to raise the pension age well into the 70s. And they're going to charge for the NHS, and they're going to restrict and largely abolish the majority of welfare benefits. Now, I think those ought to be pretty left-wing issues, but not for the modern Labour Party. The modern Labour Party is more concerned about a small minority of people who are extremely unrepresentative of the majority. But it's all a game of playing divide and rule, isn't it? That while we're arguing about some, vanishingly small minority of the population, 0.01% of people who are transgender or something, we ignore, perhaps the majority of people in the country whose condition is being neglected and is getting worse very quickly.
Yeah, but the thing that gets me, don't you smell a rat with this flag campaign? Because I think it's the government that's doing it. I really do smell a rat with that. I don't believe it's grassroots at all. It's social engineers that have started it. Because 9 million people are unemployed in this country who can afford to buy flags. And they're all the same specification. They're all the same. They're all hung basically the same height, all using the same zip ties. No, that's too organised.
So the big question in my mind is, where did these flags come from? I mean,
yes, a little factory, Nathan, somewhere must have had 1 million of them standing by in some warehouse ready for the rush. Someone was tipped off. I don't know what they cost, $5 each or something. I think we mentioned this, didn't we, Eric, a few weeks ago? How do you supply 1 million flags? Do they just keep 1 million floating around at some point? It's definitely got the hand of the enemy in it. There's no two ways about it.
So they're probably made in China, and they had to be organised, weeks and shipped.
Yeah,
because we probably can't make them in Britain anymore.
No,
yeah, you're right.
Maybe
this
not.
Has to be organised a long time in advance. It's like all of those knives that suddenly turned up in Rwanda before the massacre. That didn't happen by accident.
No.
Those knives that everyone cut each other to pieces with in Rwanda, they were ordered from a factory in China, and they were shipped over in crates well in advance of the massacre. Wasn't that sort of clever organisation?
Well, it's a common pattern. Isn't it a common pattern, Nathan, these things, that whenever all these large-scale historical conflicts, whichever ones you want to pick, they're always the end result of a trail long laid, always. So when anything gets big and prominent, there's been...
I'm a conspiracy theorist.
I'm not. I'm a conspiracy analyst, and so are you. Let's give ourselves the correct term. We're looking into things with a keen eye and saying the first degree of observation is practically useless because it's molded by the other side. Let's take that layer off and have a look. And getting to the second layer is enough, but there's generally a third and fourth if you want to keep tunneling into it for the rest of your life. But the second is generally enough to show you that the overt communication that's given to us always has a covert driver behind it. You can't, this thing, I didn't know the thing about the knives, so I'm really glad you said that. I know that, during the English Civil War, it was a long trail. It didn't just happen. There were, I think in London at the time, there was something like 30,000 different, not number of the same pamphlet, different pamphlets published to get people revved up. And that's what this is all. And the flags, even though I like them and think that they're good, so it's played a good hand. It's not sort of completely against what we want. We're going, a declaration of national interest is a true condition of anybody that's loyal to their kith and kin here, which includes most of us here listening. And yet they've tapped in on that. And it's that thing, what was it that the best way to deal with the opposition is to lead it. Their placemen are involved in all of these things so that, we can fulfill your order for 1 million flags in a few weeks. It all just happens. It's quite easy. If you've actually ever got a group of people together and trying to get things done, you know just how difficult it can be. And it's not necessarily just a function of money. It's logistics and things. You go, I've got to change my life. But apparently these people at the drop of a hat just have 1 million flags on tap. Nah.
I tell you, and something else that you might notice, suddenly there are all of these videos about migrants that are appearing on YouTube. YouTube, which is heavily censored. And we all know there are all sorts of subjects that you can't mention on YouTube. We know that the censorship on YouTube is not relaxed. I know, exactly.
We won't be in a minute. We'll be off in a minute.
Yeah. The sirens have gone off at YouTube HQ already. Sorry.
So suddenly there are all of these YouTube videos of controversial migrant issues, which a year ago or 2 years ago we couldn't have said anything, but suddenly they're circulating like mad. It's a bit like the flags. It's getting people set up. So another thing that we might have seen is these videos from a year ago of the police training for riots. They were training against other officers, who were playing the other side, draped in English flags, St. George's flags. What a strange thing, eh?
Slap my thigh. And
yes,
I believe
you see that.
A load from your area, Nathan, going down south for this Saturday, knees up, little Tommy trousers. But
Yeah,
Augsburgers for
yeah. I think they're coming from all over the country.
Augsburgers
Yeah,
for
I think they're
fun.
going to be tens of thousands of riot police.
That's right.
They're all warmed up for this. They've
Oh
been
yeah.
training for this for at least a year.
Well, Asperger's for Fudge has said, if the flag thing is a psyop, what is the aim? One word: revolution. They want a revolution, because what revolutions do, it's mass genocide. Usually, every revolution has been, and it ends up with a tyrant getting into power, who's the worst tyrant you could ever wish to think of, who carries out even more genocide. That's their aim.
So if I could
The
just
death cult.
mention something at this point. So there was an article published recently by Professor Michael Rainsborough, who was previously Professor David Betts's boss and colleague and collaborator. And he wrote this article, Britain's descent towards civil war is no accident.
Yeah.
And basically what he's saying is it's part of a government. Uh,
It
yeah,
is.
it's a plan. It
It
suits them.
is. Yeah. By the
It,
way,
it,
Eric, your
it,
mic's a
it,
bit low in volume. Sorry, Nathan, for talking over you, but
people
your
should
mic's a
really
little low in
read it.
volume, Eric.
So,
Just to let you know.
Is it mine? Okay, I'll host it up a bit. Okay, sorry about that.
It's all right. Just thought I'd let you
It
know.
has bloody thing has a
So
mind of its own. It's okay.
So anyway, this article's really worth reading. It's in the Daily Skeptic. Britain's descent towards civil war is no accident. Basically, it comes back to this. So David Betts, in the article in the interview he gave for The Forge, it must be about 4 weeks ago now, he said that Britain is in a transition from being apparently democratic to being an authoritarian state. Just to say that again, Britain is in a transition from being an apparent democracy to being an authoritarian state.
Yeah.
How do you make that transition happen? The way you do it is by having a civil war. And, when the government needs new security measures to control the violence, that's how they take power.
That's it. And as Paul just said, the aim is to bring in digital ID, which will be for our safety.
Part of them.
Because it
Yeah.
always is. Spot on, mate. Absolutely bloody spot on, man. Yes. Yes. And
So I'll just mention at this point, because this is something that's been occupying my mind for over 15 years. I remember reading, it must be about 2007, an article where it described police ID systems. Now, police keep intelligence on people more than just criminals, but about everybody. One of the key pieces of information that police wants to know is who would this person turn to if they were in trouble. Right? That's something the police wants to know, because they want to know where to find you, where to pick you up. Most of us probably never stop to think about who we could turn to if we were in trouble. I think it's time we did. And I think it's time we started thinking of people that the police wouldn't know about. Someone we can go to that the police wouldn't go there to look for us. So one of the things that both David Betts and Michael Rainsborough have been saying is that they expect a dirty war of a similar kind to what happened in Northern Ireland. And, one of the things that happened there was death squads, people who went round and just committed murders. Some of the murders were random, completely innocent people, kill a Protestant, kill a Catholic, that kind of thing. but some of them were really targeted. And, they weren't just targeting people who were violent. They weren't just targeting people who were members of the IRA or the Protestant paramilitaries. They were targeting people who put forward a positive political agenda.
It's going to be fun.
So I think people. I'm going to say this again because I mean this. I mean it deeply. Violence is not in our interests. I don't want anyone that I'm associated with to talk about wanting violence. It's completely wrong.
Spot on.
Violence serves the government agenda. We believe in peace. Ordinary people benefit from peace. We do not benefit from violence.
Never proves anything. Never has.
Violence undoes. Well, yeah.
I mean, look at Northern
Ireland. And generally, I would say don't. I mean, of course, nowadays they're making it so it's very difficult to avoid breaking the law. You don't even know what the law really is anymore because it's changing so fast. But as far as you can possibly do so, please try to avoid breaking the law.
But the big trouble, you see, the thing is, look at after the Northern Ireland troubles, there are still people in wheelchairs that are injured from those troubles. And after the troubles, I mean, all wars are fought by forgotten heroes for lost causes. Everyone. That's a sad fact. And Stephen Truthseeker said, who is going to be fighting who? And I think it would be Christian against Muslim. That's my feeling. That's my fear.
I think the government wants to divide people so that we're fighting each other. Yes, I think there will be probably, unfortunately, the way it looks, there will actually be ethnic conflict.
Yes,
you can see it's already happening. So even 30 years ago, I mean, and these are not the ethnic conflicts that people imagine. So in districts like Alum Rock in Birmingham, the West Indians used to fight the Pakistanis. And in London, the West Indians hate the Africans, unfortunately. And there are so many ethnic conflicts at the minute, in the recent war between India and Pakistan, that brought out ethnic conflicts in Britain. So there are lots of potential ways this could fracture. At the minute, we do not have the sort of cohesive society that we used to have. But certainly, I don't want to see anybody fighting. Unfortunately, though, the government just needs an excuse for a clampdown. They've had a long-standing plan, and they need an excuse to make a transition.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you've said, Nathan. History shows it. It's the same pattern. It's just being repeated. Unfortunately, huge numbers of people don't know that history. I suppose that you could even say, well, it's academic anyway because we're in the turmoil right now. It's not so much that the warnings have never been listened to. They have. They've just been ignored. They're downplayed. And anything that anybody says, like we were saying earlier, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And of course, I think there've been a lot of posts recently over the last couple of years where people are saying, hey, it turns out the conspiracy theorists were right about everything. That's right, because we're really analysts. And there's always an alternative view. I think the problem we've got, just going back to that term you used some minutes back, Eric, is the agent provocateur. They're going to make it happen whether we like it or not. And actually, a very interesting comment from, was it Paul, I think, in the chat, saying, I hope no one turns up. It would be nice. Yeah, that's Paul says, it would be so nice to see no one turn up to these protests at all. It would. That would be a massive middle finger to the government. Yeah, if literally no one turned up at all and the streets were empty and they got all their coppers there, right, and no one turned up, that would be more powerful than turning up.
It really spot would. On agreement. Now, that is brilliant. And Aunt Sally says the Christians won't be fighting the Muslims. No, I don't agree. But with the social engineers, little bit of social engineering, I think they will, because that can turn anybody against anything. And and Stephen Truthseeker said, "I'm not a Christian, so I'm not involved." Well, I'm not involved anyway, whatever it is. Um, Now, Aunt Sally said it will be the civic nationalists, in my honest opinion, the Tommy supporters, if anything, against the Muslims. Yes, you're right there, Aunt Sally. I agree with you. What's Paul, Nathan? What's your feelings about that? Do you think it'll be the Tommy supporters that will start? Because my feeling is they are
I
part
think
of
there are
the
a lot of people.
provocateurs.
I think
Mm.
there are a lot of people who aren't quite as analytical and cautious as we are. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
And they're going to fall for this.
Unfortunately, we do. Yeah, we do, Nathan. I think there's nothing that can really be done about it. You go, well, we've got the logic. Yeah, here's the information. Read it. Nobody does. Actually, that's not true. More numbers now are reading this stuff and consuming it and integrating it and questioning it than at any other time. That's a promising thing, but it's like a little green shoot in comparison to this forest of darkness that's trying to overwhelm it. And I'm still of the view that there'll be ways through and out and round this. But I hate the idea that, if you read all these things, particularly Solzhenitsyn's writings about how the people basically acquiesced during the Bolshevik Revolution, regrettably, human nature doesn't change, and people will not respond until their leg's been torn off. And even then, they might not do it. The conditioning is so deep that people have kind of lost connection with their true instincts. And it's not just, the thing is, we do have to defend ourselves, but we're kind of at a loss to know how to do it. This is because this plan has been unfolding Fabian-like for many, many decades. I think we can really trail it back even to the onset of World War One. Things got turned out of whack. There was no reason for that war, and nearly all the other ones that have followed, they've all been utterly avoidable if normal people had been in charge. But normal people have not been in charge of this nation for hundreds of years, and the agendaists have. And they've just taken their time and done it. They had lots of other problems to deal with, I suppose, or they wanted to tool society up in a particular way. We just have to hope, maybe pray, that we come through this in some way. But I suspect there's going to be, unfortunately, a great deal of casualties. And I'm hoping that no one here falls into that category. I don't want to fall into it either. But it's a bit like if a fight breaks out in a bar, if you've actually ever been in one, it's not like in a movie. Or if you've witnessed one, it's not all orchestrated with clean punch. It's a complete mess. It's a total... it's a bun fight. It's chaos, literally. People go into a chaotic state, and things are well out of order. And I suspect, obviously, their plan, even though we know it, how do we reduce its effectiveness or weaken them? I mean, we could pray, I suppose, for all the policemen to not turn up to work, or for them to just immediately walk over and side with the protesters, so that there is no conflicting interests, apparently, at the event. But I suspect that's not what they've been primed for. And when you see some of the communication that these policemen make in these video clips, and there's been lots of those coming out as well recently, I've noticed tons of them, people being arrested for no reason at all. There's a lot of them to stoke a contentious atmosphere, to demonstrate how mad it all is. They want you to see this. This is being allowed. If you're filming a policeman interviewing someone, I'm sure they have the power to say, you better not publish that, and we want your name and address, and we're going to do you. It could be nipped in the bud there, but they're being allowed out intentionally to create the necessary toxic atmosphere of adversarialness and to pit people with differing interests. And it's the old, I mean, even though we know that it's old, it works. It keeps working. So they're not going to change. Divide and conquer, create this internal conflict. We've been really in a kind of period of civil war or civil conflict for decades. The government since 1945, and probably even before that, really does not act in the interest of the people. It never really has. It acts at the behest of that coterie of groups and vested power interests that want things their way. And they're obviously now little more than an adjunct of globalism or the World Economic Forum or whatever the organization of the day happens to be, the United Nations and this, that, and the other. It's all part of this sort of systemic wiping out of the Western heritage countries, for want of a better phrase. And this is how they've decided to do it. And there's nothing new here that didn't happen, say, in Spain, when the Moors were allowed into Spain. It's the same mechanism.
Listen,
it's the same mechanism.
So we've got to give people something positive. It's no good saying, ain't it awful? We've actually got to offer some people something positive that they can do. I don't want people to feel hopeless. I don't feel hopeless. I feel incredibly motivated to communicate with people and make them understand the amount of power that they have. I think the reason why we're in this situation is because people have been far too passive for too long. This wouldn't have been possible in the same way in the 1960s. And it's not just because Britain had a different racial composition back then. It's also because Britain had a large number of mass movements. So if you look at the Labour Party was not an homogenous organisation under centralised command. The Labour Party was effectively a coalition of a series of different parties. Different Labour MPs were sponsored by different organisations. For example, one of them would be the Co-op, and others were sponsored by different trade unions. And because of that, the Labour Party couldn't sack MPs who dissented. They couldn't, because that would mean that trade union that sponsored that MP would cease to sponsor the Labour Party, or the Co-op would cease to sponsor the Labour Party, because they had power. These movements contributed to the Labour Party. They didn't just contribute members, they contributed organisation, they contributed money. And the Labour Party couldn't afford to, tell them to get into line. It just wasn't possible. This is why, for example, Harold Wilson couldn't send British troops to Vietnam, because the different elements of his party wouldn't let him. And, these mass movements were independent. What we've got today is we've got these political parties that are pretty much kind of token organisations. They're a facade. They're not real at all. You know that they're backed by, effectively the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are backed by the same people to further the same agenda. And that wasn't the case in the past. So what happened to the mass movements that they used to be in Britain? Well, one of the things that happened is people stopped participating. Simple as that. People stayed at home and watched television instead. And that's a lot of what's happening now. People are looking at their phones and not watching television so much. They're looking at the internet and they're doing all sorts of things which are very entertaining. Perhaps they think they're contributing to the opposition by watching opposition-flavoured videos. But in fact, they're not part of any organisation. They're not really contributing to an opposition until they go out and take part themselves. Watching a video, reading an article, it's good stuff, by the way. Get into the spirit, get into the mood, get well informed, but it means nothing till you actually do something. I think this is a really important message. We have to change people's psychology. We have to get them from watching to participating. What's gone wrong with our nation is we've sunk into bystander effect. Bystander effect is the more people who watch something happen, say there's a man assaults a woman in the street, the more people are there, the less likely anyone is going to intervene. Well, here we've got a whole nation of people watching. They're watching on the internet and they're not doing anything. Classic bystander effect. The more people are there, the more they're waiting for somebody else to do something. Well, nobody's going to do something until you do something. That's a lesson that I learned. I was lucky. I learned that lesson maybe about 38 years ago. I was put in a situation where I realized something wasn't going to happen unless I did something myself. In situation a lot of times again. But because I've actually got involved myself before, I'm willing to step forward. Other people who haven't done that, who have not stepped forward, they find it very hard to do it for the first time. And I really understand that because I can remember how hard it was for me the first time. We have got to help people over that threshold. So what we have to do is we have to learn to organize. That's the first thing. Getting off our bums. So what does this mean? I think first thing is we have to come together. We have to start forming local groups. I know this sounds incredibly modest. Think the whole nation's gone to ruin. How can I change something by just getting together with a couple of my friends? I tell you, you can make a lot of difference because you've actually crossed that threshold. And the more people do that, the more chance of making a difference. So the first thing I've got to say is start to form a group. The natural group that people form is 3, strangely enough, I've observed in practice. What you actually need is a group of 6. When we reach 6, you've started to get something together. So, as I say, try to bring people together. I've actually been doing a bit of research on how to try and get people motivated and how to get people involved. One of the things that seems to be quite important is the opposite of what we've been told recently. People have actually got to know each other. There's been some research published in America studying successful and unsuccessful social movements and studying the characteristics. This is published in about 2017. And studying the characteristics of successful and unsuccessful social movements. And a very important thing is that people actually know and trust each other. So if you recruit people from the internet, that's no good. You reach lots of people, but they're not going to get involved. You've got to have a circle of friends, people who've known each other a while and trust each other. That's where things start to happen. What else? I think it's really important that you don't just do one thing, you do lots of things. I've actually got a set of notes about this. They're probably a bit too long to go through all of them here. But the point is, there are a series of things that you can do. It's important, let's take an example of a movement that failed. The yellow boards, the sort of stand by the road thing. So if you just have one tactic and you just stick to one tactic and do the same thing again and again, that doesn't go anywhere. You've got to keep on doing different things, expand and grow. You've got to give people a chance to do what they want to do, because not everyone wants to do the same things. Some people will want to be more adventurous and perhaps be more visible. Other people won't feel comfortable with that. You've got to have a range of different things that you do, something to suit everybody. There's got to be training and development. So, not everybody will want to move on, but it's important that you try and bring out the potential leaders in your organization, people who maybe feel frustrated, want to do more, and don't know how to go further. Because what we really need is somebody experienced to go around and offer workshops and training and get people to um, understand what other people have done before and how it worked, and give them encouragement. So some of this implies a sort of a very loose central organization. I don't want to think in terms of leadership. We have this problem with leaders getting arrested. We know about this.
Well,
Um,
leader list is best. Sorry to chime in here, but the Yellow Vests were incredibly successful, and they didn't have a leader.
they were.
The French government wanted to speak to a leader; they didn't have one, and the reason I believe is because they were farming folk mainly, not city folk, and they had to think things through for themselves. Farming people are very self-reliant. City folk are not; they rely on everybody else, and this is where I think we got problems with this extreme left wing. I mean, I know people live in cities, very nice people, but I'm not saying everybody's the same. But look at the Boers. Now, the Boers fought the most advanced army in the world, and the British army could have slaughtered them, but they were incredibly successful. Why? Because they organised, I believe, in groups of three, and they had less ranks and things like that. And the attitude was very sort of didn't have leaders as such. And they were so successful that Britain had to do a scorched earth policy and put their farming folk, their wives and children, that into concentration camps. And that's the only way they
And
stopped it.
starve them to death.
And starved them to death, yes.
And starve them to
Deliberately.
death.
And deliberately tried to kill them. Deliberately. That was
Slowly. Yeah,
yes.
because it's no good to do it quickly. You had to do it slowly so that they might be persuaded to come in.
Yes. Yes. That's the thing.
Let's
But
go back to this cultural revolution, May,
yeah.
because I'd like to come back to this because I'm going to try and offer people something positive. So this is actually based upon practical things that people have really done that really work in situations a lot worse than we find ourselves in today. Maybe similar to the situation we might find ourselves in a year's time. So what do we learn from peaceful non-violent resistance groups? That there are lessons and there are things that you can learn from these. There is literature. People have written about it. It's worth reading it if you can. These days it's relatively easy to find this stuff, but because it's strangely enough not quite political. It's not censored in the way some things are. But anyway, I'd like to talk about not a lot of people these days really understand spirituality. They think when you talk about spirituality, they talk about religion. Well, I'm going to talk about spirituality more in terms of that sort of feeling that makes people want to be alive. Maybe makes an artist want to paint a picture, or somebody want to play music, or want to dance. Right? We're going to talk about spirituality in a much broader sense. I don't want people to get put off by things, that they might have been afraid of. And but I think there are certain things that you can do that will deepen your spiritual awareness. Now, some of these things have traditionally been associated with religion. I don't want people to feel that you've got to be religious to try these things out. I'm talking about, for example, meditation. Right? This puts you in touch inside yourself. So, for example, if you're feeling afraid, well, that will calm the fear and instead you'll find courage. You get to understand why you feel anxious, and you'll get through the barrier. These are things that are very useful, not just in terms of skills that are useful in this situation, but in terms of one's own personal development and happiness and having better relationships with your family and all these sort of things, right? This is not something that you should say, well, I've got to be a Christian or I've got to be a Buddhist or I've got to be some other religion to do this. Now, I want to tell you about a religion that's actually quite interesting. A religion, it's not really, it's a group. The Quakers. Now, many people don't know, but the Quakers have become incredibly non-denominational. So amongst the Quakers, there are lots of people who aren't Christians. So there are Buddhists and there are Quaker humanists who are atheists. But a lot of people didn't know that. You can be an atheist and go along with Quakers.
Really?
Now, the Quakers are a very interesting organisation because you'll find them at the forefront of almost every political protest movement. These are the genuine people who aren't attached to the Marxists. So if you look at the people who are protesting for Palestine, who aren't in the socialist workers, the people who are campaigning on, prison reform back in the day, and there are a whole load of issues. The Quakers are there at the front. They're taking a principled moral stand. And they're not afraid. These are the people who cut the fences to get into military bases. These are the people who go and get themselves arrested. These are the people who keep on doing it again and again, and they just aren't afraid. And the reason is because they've made this spiritual breakthrough. It's
That's
there.
interesting.
You can go along to the Quakers any Sunday and they will start you on the path. If you go along to the Quakers, you will probably meet people who are experienced in political organisation and resistance.
Hang on a minute. Quaker atheists? I've never heard of that one before. Really?
Yeah, they call themselves Quaker humanists. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, definitely. Go check it out.
I'm surprised.
Now, one of the things about the Quakers is they've got they're very well organised. The Quakers have been organised for a long time, and they've got a structured approach to helping people discover their own spirituality. They've got classes and they've got workshops. All of this, you don't have to be part of a religion. The Quakers, as I say, have become a completely non-denominational group. The only things that you really have to believe in are a firm commitment to ethics, including non-violence, and honesty, and a commitment to pursuing spiritual practice. Now, it may not be for everyone, but I think everyone ought to make an effort to get along and at least have a look. Because even if you don't like it, there's something to learn from.
Really? I know they don't have prayers as such, do they? Have meetings because it's Friends Meeting House, and because they're very big in Hertfordshire. Very big in Hertfordshire. There's a lot more Quakers in Hertfordshire than almost anywhere else. It's
they're all over the place. I don't know how big they are in Scotland, but yeah. So what happens at a meeting is they sit down, they meditate, and then people, after about half an hour or so, somebody will speak about some thoughts that they've been having. Somebody else will join in, and then there'll be a conversation amongst people from the experience of their meditation that they've been having on this subject. And, it's a typical thing. It goes on for about an hour and a half, and then they go down and have coffee,
What was their
much like
idea?
any other church.
Yeah. Do you know what their thoughts were on the old Williams toxic arm, bro? I mean, did they all queue up? Like I
So
mean,
I have to say,
Jehovah's Witnesses
I have to.
were into it. Seriously, they were really into the
So,
old, you know.
unfortunately, the Quakers are suffering from the same as almost any church or religion, in that it can be a bit middle class. So you get a lot of people along there who are perhaps a bit safe. They are, unfortunately, some of them are a bit conventional, and they will just they'll be part of the modern well-meaning Guardian readers. That is not all of them. I think you've got to realize what I've just described is a very mixed, eclectic group of people. So you've got a real spectrum from people who are way out there and willing to risk their lives on a principle, and people who are very safe and cautious and do what the television tells them.
Well,
But you've got more of the people who really put themselves on the line than you'll meet anywhere else.
It was the stretcher bearers,
How do
mainly
you meet
who were
them?
Quakers during the war. Sorry, I was going to say it's the majority of the people in the medical corps were Quakers, and also bomb disposal were Quakers as well, because they were conscientious objectors. The majority were, and I think Richard Nixon was a Quaker. I think he was. So if anybody look that up,
yeah,
which,
there's a complicated man.
yeah, yeah. So but the thing is that it's a religion that I know that near where I live, there's a place called, was it Scott's Grotto? That's in Ware. People say where?
Oh.
And it was a folly that was made, and because the Quakers did get quite rich, friars were Quakers, and this chap in Ware, because there's a lot of unemployment around, he created employment for people making this grotto. And it's fantastic. I've been there. Scott's Grotto, it's called. And as I say, I know that Hitchin in particular and Hertford, the capital Hertfordshire, is full of Quakers. It really is the Quaker Central. So that's something. And any Quakers where you are, Paul?
I worked for Quakers for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. The oil factory that I worked at in Hunslet from 1980 to 1982 or 3, the whole of the management class and the ownership were all Quakers. Mr. Vickers used to go to peace conferences prior to World War II. They had enough money to fly him on planes, and he went to Honolulu or somewhere for a World Peace Conference. I've always found the Quakers really rather interesting and attractive in many ways, because I'm going to sneeze in a second.
Bless you, my
there we go. I thought I'd give it to you for audio effect. Yeah, I was adding atmosphere to the chat. The friends meetings that they have are much more in line with the instructions from Scripture. That's what you're supposed to do. You don't need this big organized hierarchy of priests and bosses and everything as intermediaries between you and God. The idea is that you get in there in a room, and we're doing it right now on air, right? We might not be focusing on the things that they necessarily focus on. Maybe they're given some guidance as to what they're going to talk about that Sunday or that Wednesday or whenever they meet. But the idea, as I understood it, is that whenever the Spirit moves someone, they can stand up and talk and share, say what's on their mind, bring something to a head, raise something, bring an issue up, which is really what we're doing here. Obviously on a weekly basis or a twice a week basis, what we're seeking to do. So, and that is much more from my personality, that suits my personality much more. I think that that's a really good thing.
I'm here.
I used to meet up at in the early 2000s, from about 2000 to 2003 or 4. I used to go up to the main Quaker house opposite Euston Road railway station in London, on the Euston Road. And at the time,
I've been in there.
they've transformed the building now, and it's crap because they've modernized it and put all these modern chairs in. But when I went there then, it was just the most fantastic building. It still had the original wooden stage there that had been built in 1923. You could feel the figures that had walked through that hall. It was just fabulous. And I'm telling you, you'd go and listen to anything in there. It was just the most wonderful building. The seats all squeaked. It had character, that old thing that you can't buy, that it just comes with a seasoned building. It was wonderful. Of course, they had to get rid of that and put this all these sort of modern high-tech train chairs in with the, whatever it is. So it lost an awful lot in that. But the atmosphere was fantastic. I used to meet up with all these barristers, a guy that was very high up in the Church of England, Peter Challen. I assume that most of them are not really likely to be with us still. They were seasoned individuals back then. Wonderful chaps. Really great. All talking about monetary reform. That was the whole thing. I don't know if there were actually any Quakers there, but that's what we talked about for a couple of years. And there were Austin Mitchell, the MP, was into it and all this kind of stuff. They were great. They're fantastic. A guy called Rodney Shakespeare, who must have gone. I've got his book somewhere on my shelf called Binary Economics, which is about a much more, it was a serious attempt to provide us with an honest monetary system. That's why I was there. So some wonderful people there.
Austin Mitchell.
Pardon?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Austin Mitchell.
Yeah, he's passed on now. But he was going to basically take a motion into the House to begin the process of discussing it, but they could never get it there. And I was very cynical because of what I knew. And I said to them at the time, look, I completely agree with what you're doing, but the approach, in my view, will not work because they all get paid at the end of the month and they'll waste 20 years of your life. And they would. They just waste it. They can do the Fabian on you wherever you engage with them. So it's tricky to know how to seek it. But what Nathan's addressing, the idea of getting into groups, is something obviously that we touch upon here from time to time. I keep thinking of the parishes all the time, like each parish needs like a home guard. We all need our Captain Mannering. All right, maybe you're all going to become Captain Mannerings. I don't really care. But it's to connect. The pubs used to do that, but obviously in a soft way without any focus on defending yourself. But the communication needs to be about, it is. They're hammering them financially. Any place where we meet and can communicate and ease our way into a conversation, anything that's informal, that's therefore healthy in many, many regards. Obviously, you go to some rough pubs and you don't go there for the talk or anything, but generally, you're going to get good conversation. The hubbub of people talking is intoxicating in itself, really. You don't realize it until you go back into a busy pub and everybody's yakking like man. You go, this is quite cool, actually. And, of course, people do that less and less. So there has been a multi-pronged attack on every single everything in our lives has been weaponized against us. Car parking tickets and permission to do this. And you can't say these words and these people are hurt and you can't meet in the pubs and the tax and the pubs gone up and 3,000 pubs a month are closing down or whatever, a year are closing down and no one can run them and they can't make any profits and they're bought up and turned into plastic pubs, blah, 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 blah. But the buildings still exist. And I think that they're natural meeting places. I mean, I do meet up with guys. I mean, actually tomorrow night, although we just cancel it, I meet every fortnight up at a pub here. With about 7 or 8 people. It's just expanded. A couple of more people have come along. And it's a matter of, I'm always trying to nudge the conversation towards looking at how we get organized and to get the men clear that we're going to have to become men. Certainly something I'm keen on. We have become a soft people. We're not a soft people, but we're currently in a very soft condition. And it will be difficult, I suspect. It's a bit like telling someone to start doing 50 press-ups a day. They could do it, but they're not. It hurts. I'd rather just sit here and have a chocolate biscuit. And, there's a part of me that's like that. It's really small little things that begin to shift it, and they need to be entered into. And a group is definitely the best way to do it because you get both criticism and encouragement, which is all good if you've got the right context for what you're up to doing. And it's basically about safeguarding our home. We can decide whose home it's going to be maybe later on, but I'm crystal clear whose it is. And, for me, basically, it is a racial thing. I've said this before. It absolutely is. If my kith and kin are not involved in this, then I'm not interested. It's as simple as that. And because I just look at nature. And I was just looking up on Jeremy Bentham. He was all against natural law and stuff and all this kind of stuff. Interestingly, there were a few things that he said that I agreed with. I was just checking out his CV. I'm aware of him because he keeps cropping up. But he sounds like a maniac to me. A highly gifted one, him and John Stuart Mill, highly, ridiculously intelligent. These people that are sort of reading Latin at 5, they're those guys. I don't know where they come from, but they seem to pop up. He was the son of a merchant and suddenly could, he'd got a degree by the time he was 16 and was teaching the rest of his family when he was 12. I mean, how does that work? But those were different times, and we still produce people like that. Unfortunately, I suspect many of them are on the other side. But maybe I'll rock up. There's a Quaker Centre up here. I haven't been in one for ages. I loved the atmosphere in the building. I loved the calmness of the people behind the desk. In a calm space, people's urge to be combative is reduced. But not wimpified. You can't go passive. This is the problem. And the onslaught against us has been considerable. It's got to be, in many ways, the greatest psychological warfare ever conducted, simply because of the technology that is available to absorb people's time and therefore their attention in areas that do literally nothing. We're just treading water. The phones, of course, have replaced the TV. And as we've mentioned here before, although this is a technical point, it's a key part of it. That blue screen technology that's on the phone is literally hypnotizing people for dopamine hits. That's part of it. So, there's been a lot of things coming out recently as well about the attention economy, which is really what we're in. What everybody wants is your attention. They want you to spend time with them and not elsewhere. And we're exactly the same. We are really here with messages like this and these communications. We are in the attention acquiring business, and we need to acquire more of it. The more attention you get, the more attention you will get, because it's sort of attracts more people in. It's that sort of 100th monkey syndrome, which is a key part of all of this. So, but I love the idea of a sort of like a little home guard in 15,000 parishes. You only need 100 men in each one. You've got 1.5 million men ready to defend their families and their local way of life, and to get people clear. And this is where a distributed radio system, which is easy to set up, could happen. But we need the individuals to come forward and do that. I'm here to help anybody that wants to do that, by the way. I'm here to help anyone at all that wants to do these things, because it's vital. It's absolutely vital. We're up against an absolute technological onslaught with what's coming. And people are already getting all goofy about AI, which is deeply concerning. Even though I think there could be quite a bit of good out of it. We've got to use these tools for our benefit and not for the other side. So I think the idea of carrying a banner of peaceable non-compliance is good, because it will appeal to the broadest number of people. You don't know where these things are going to go. You have to be prepared for the worst. We're not prepared for anything much, really. We've prepared our minds, I would say, people in this sort of conversation, and there are more and more of them doing it, and that is encouraging. And if that's all you can do for now, do it. Do whatever you can. But I think I don't feel sort of unoptimistic about it. I don't feel overly optimistic about it. I think there's so many unknowns to us here, but there's also, I think we actually do know an awful lot, in the sense that the plans of the other side never change. They're always the same. We've got multiple examples from history, those that have looked at it, to see this. And as a little sort of slightly negative comment, I was going to say there is that old phrase, I've forgotten who said it, those that don't study history are doomed to repeat it, which is true. But the one that I'm adding to it is this. Those of us that have studied history are doomed to have to live with those that haven't studied it and have to watch it repeat again, knowing that it's going to repeat, and not being able to get through to everybody else and say, wake up, stand here. It's just a matter of standing in the right place, figuratively, possibly literally, stand in the peaceful place. And our answer to them is no. Okay, we refuse. We don't want your services. Okay, don't want them. And other things. There'll be more powerful things to say. I'm just coming up with this right now. But that's the stance. It's an attitudinal thing that people have got. It's the shift in an inner spiritual attitude that your life is worth something. You must participate in the outcome of your own life. If you don't, somebody will take charge of your life. Tragically, for most of us, they already have. And you're saying, I don't like this anymore. That's good. You know, and it'll be uncomfortable. And if you don't like discomfort and you're going to get upset, then you're in for a really tough time because it's going to be unavoidable. It is unavoidable, I'm afraid. There's nothing we can do about that.
And Stephen Truthseeker says, do you realise the Yugoslavic conflict was just about religion? Because all those people were the same race. And it was the same with Northern Ireland, wasn't it? Both the same race. Catholic and
Is that
Protestant.
what, Serbia and Croatia and all that kind of stuff? Is that what we're talking about? It was. It was agitated on purpose. Yeah, they take a division and amplify it intentionally. It's intentionally amplified. And so any difference that's found is then picked at slowly but surely. You get little articles building up. Oh, they do this and they do that. And it starts off as gossip, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and then suddenly people go, right, I've had enough of this, and then all hell breaks loose. Literally, unfortunately, where we are seduced, hypnotized into this condition. And we've got to find ways of dehypnotizing those that are close to us. They're not bad people at all. They're really good people. The bulk of them is good. But there's a little part of the sort of operation center that's not looking at the right stuff, that doesn't feel it. And that's because what we're saying to them, unfortunately, but there's no way around this either, is come over here and feel uncomfortable. Come over here and feel uncomfortable because you will. And their subconscious knows it, I suspect. This is why it's slow. It appears to be so slow. They go, oh, no, I'd rather not talk about that. Well, we know you'd rather not talk about it, but the other side are talking about it 24/7. And not only that, they're planning and they're acting on their plans, and they're going to take advantage of your weakness. And I think it goes back to this thing as well about bullying, which is a great word to use, because we are being bullied in simple playground terms. This is what's happening to us. And we're being bullied because we appear weak, because we are weak. And the first point is to admit that. And you go, right. And as soon as you've admitted that, you start to become strong. But we've had a lot of this stuff going around. You see all the British lions are rising and all this. And I'm going, look, stop talking all this highfalutin. It's just nonsense. Forget it. Some people have never stopped being lions, which are always the minority. They're always there. But the vast majority have always been compliant. Anything for an easy life. Well, life is going to be so easy. The best way to make life really easy is to be dead. Then you don't have to do it at all. It's whether you want to live or not, really. And do you want to live on good terms with your neighbor? Most of us do. A few absolutely do not, and they're the ones that are organized to actually stop that happening, in so many ways. So, and I don't think the differences between tribes are reconcilable, nor does that upset me, nor does it worry me, nor should it be a matter of concern, because the actual clear path is to get clear about, in my view, where people should be located geographically in the world. And these problems have been intentionally arranged. It's been intentional to bring people from different ethnicities and cultures and religious backgrounds into this nation since after World War II by design to bring this situation about. It's absolutely intentional. You only have to go to the Coudenhove-Kalergi plan from 1926. There it is writ large. And it's going on in every single country where our kinsmen live. Every single one. And it'll never go away. And there isn't, we're all going to get together and be happy. You can kiss that goodbye. I'm not buying into that. That's another false path. It won't work. People need to understand. Everybody needs to get home. And they all know where their home is. Everybody. I'm fortunate. Apparently, I live in my own home. Unfortunately, they're trying to set fire to it whilst I'm in it. And it's where the people around here want to put the fire out. And I'm happy to participate. Let's get to it. Come on.
Well, I think the thing is that governments, more people have been killed by their own governments than all the wars put together. And we need government like we need a hole in the head. That's the real fact of the matter. We don't need government. And Ronald Reagan, who was probably one of the best bullshitters there was in government, said one true thing. He said, if government took a couple of months holiday, nobody noticed any difference. It's true.
Well, he was an actor, Eric, wasn't he? And that's really what they
Oh,
are.
it's his best role, wasn't it? As president, his best part. I mean, you read the lines very well. I mean, he did
He
act
says
it
here,
well, at least.
I starred as the US president for 8 years, was it? Again, twice. I
Yeah,
was shot
that's
once
right.
and survived that. I told lots of jokes, and I fell in love with Margaret Thatcher. And yet you look at things that Maggie said, you see, they're spot on. She was actually, they are. I'm not defending her. I know she did some other things that are not right. I've got that. But you have to sort of call it out where you see it. And it's a bit like with Liz Truss recently. Okay, bit goofy in public, didn't come across well, all sorts of things like that. But when she nailed it when she pointed the finger at the Bank of England. So we don't have a prime minister, but people forget this stuff so quickly. This is why I think you have to be on this 24/7. You have to be obsessed. And I'm going to suggest that we are obsessed. I mean, if someone says you're an obsessive about this, you go, yes, thank you very much. I am. Because it's actually to do with the welfare of all of us. And particularly me. Yeah, I have got selfish interests. I want you to survive because I'm with you. And if you don't survive, I won't. So I'll look after your back if I know that you're capable and want to look after mine, right? And it's almost like a blood oath. It's going to go. You understand why these things happened in the past. You go, that's a bit brutal, isn't it? You go, yeah. Well, if you don't get like that, you'll get bullied into oblivion, and that's kind of what's happening.
So, shall we have bets on Saturday? Is it? No, it's not this. Yes, it is this Saturday, isn't it?
It is this coming Saturday.
Tommy Trousers. How long it will be before a granny gets arrested? Any ideas? I mean, have they done the auditions yet? Have they finished the auditions for a granny?
How many?
So, yeah, how many grannies?
How many grannies? The granny-ometer. The granny arrest-ometer.
And the police are in there, and they've arrested Granny. Yes, she said bacon sandwich. Oh, and had the old handcuffs on. So, So I wonder whether they've done all the auditions for her. They got to be special grannies, haven't they? Stunt grannies. Sorry.
The Quakers, by the way, very, very good businessmen. They're very good businessmen.
Really?
I'm still ambivalent about certain ways that they do things, but wasn't William Penn a Quaker? He's the guy that gave his name to Pennsylvania. And Penn they were going through a similar thing in the 1600s. Penn gave a religious speech on the steps of some building in London, right in the center of London at the time, and was arrested for it. But when you look at what he's talking about, the Quakers came about because when the Bible was translated into English, they discovered this section in it which says, swear no oaths. You don't swear oaths, which of course is very interesting because they're sworn all the time in supposed British courts of law. You swear an oath. And yet the instruction is you don't do that. And most business was done on oath swearing. And the Quakers had a big problem with it. They said, well, they're called Quakers because they feared God, which is, if you're going to fear anything, I'm going to suggest that that's the best thing to fear, right? And I do think it means fear. It needs a bit more elaboration. It's not really for this show. But I think Penn was instrumental in all that. And of course, as part of that religious exodus, they wanted to live their lives the way they wanted to live them. He went to the States, and Pennsylvania is named after him, after William Penn, which is, so there you go.
And that's where you got rhyming from, isn't it? Someone pen and ink, so that means stink. Sorry. Carry on, Nathan.
Well, I don't know about that.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, we actually need to build an alternative parallel economy. This is one of the things about defeating globalization. We've got, if we're going to defeat the banking system, if we're going to defeat CBDCs, if we're going to defeat digital ID, we're going to have to create an alternative parallel economy. We actually need good businessmen to do it. And actually, the way the Quakers have set about it, always, it forms a very good template. We actually need a bit of
it's contagious.
Personal
Bless you. Gesundheit.
But, yes, but no. This is something that I've actually. It does all dovetail together. In fact,
Well,
Could I?
apart from a little bit of work, there's very little stopping us creating an alternative economy. It would be tiny and pathetic to start off with in terms of its scale. But in terms of its intent, it would be mighty from the word go. The thing is, Nathan, I've done this quite a few times. It's what got me into a great deal of trouble with the Bank of England 25 years ago. So I've got a lot of knowledge about how to do those things and also how they undermine it. The main way that they undermine any local currency or community currency system that you want to set up is they put their own placemen in it and then disrupt internally or seek to get close to the administrative point, and then they bugger about with it. There may be a leaderless monetary commercial system that we can create. It's in the end, you see, that's a silly thing to say because there is no ends. But as a primary point, you need simply honest people. This is a ridiculous thing to say, but this has to be the case. Without people that are honest and true and have a higher view of life that they're pursuing, the thing that keeps their spirit burning bright and brighter with each passing day, you can't do it. And the minute you get a cynic or somebody who's dragging the group down in, it's so easy to destroy groups. And I don't know what the defense mechanism is for that other than ruthless expulsion. I'm serious. But then they go off and become the enemy of yours over the hill and they plot over there. So, it's a matter of looking at what binds us together. I do feel, even though this is not necessarily going to be popular, that the spiritual has to include the laws of God. Many people go, no, we can sort it out ourselves. I'm going to suggest that historical evidence shows that we've never done that. This is one of the reasons why we're in this trouble right now. There has to be an obedience to law. There has to be, because you can't measure the behavior of those that you're working alongside with without that guide, without that standard. It is not right to murder people. Not only is it not right, if you do, you will suffer badly for it. You cannot do that. As we look around here, we see that people have been raped. So I've just seen a story here of an old lady, 75, in a hospital, raped to death. They completely covered up. This is in England. They covered up the story completely, right? These sick things are going. Now, it's all right as in one degree, and we should do this, having a rational, calm, peaceable discussion about it. But when people see that and face to face with it, you don't know how people are going to react. And if someone got a pickaxe in the head because they'd raped someone, I wouldn't mind, because they deserve that. And you go, and then of course we get all this thing like, oh, well, he had a bad childhood and everything. Tough. You can't do it again. We got to stop it. If you just let it go, it will keep on running. So we've got some massive internal decisions to make about how we want to live. And because we can't trust any man or woman to be a good leader for long, they can start off good. I've always thought that the main problem is not that there aren't really great people amongst us that would be naturally suited to be king, for example, right? But how do you protect the king? How do you actually protect them 24/7 from the guys whispering their ears, the ones that come? I mean, on a piece of paper, we can write out economic systems that would be fantastic and that have been implemented by nations for short periods of time. In every case, and we've mentioned this repeatedly here, Libya, Germany, there are others as well. What actually happens is the banking system pulls all the debts threatens all the other surrounding countries with complete economic ruin if they don't attack that country and destroy it. And that's exactly what's happened every time. So something small, hidden, do we have to sort of skulk around for a bit? Maybe we do. Maybe, though, it'd be so cool. We'd love it. Maybe you have to have two lives, one that pretends to be in their system and the other one which is your real life. I mean, this is deranged stuff I'm saying in a way, but I'm just sort of exploring ideas, The technology exists for us to communicate and to organize. We could use a digital currency. And some people get really hung up on that. They go, well, this is a terrible thing, and we should be using gold, for example. My sort of proposition is it doesn't matter what we use as money. It does not matter what we use as money. Who is in charge of the exchange center? That's the key. What is the exchange? If you set up a currency like even now, gold is at $3,600 an ounce. I saw the other day. Apparently, the highest price ever. This doesn't take into account the fact that the dollar's worth nothing compared to a 1950s dollar, right, or something like that. That does not. But nevertheless, numerically, it's the highest number in dollars ever put against gold. But how are you supposed to use gold in that particular way without the incumbent power smashing you to bits? This is the issue. Getting more and more people to withdraw from the banking system is fine, but they must have something to replace it. So, and providing that, a way to provide it must be found. I mean, there are things such as local exchange trading systems. They've been going for years. They're cool on one level, but if you go along, people can't get the necessities. Seems to me the necessities are going to be food. So a union with farmers would be a logically really pragmatic thing to develop. We talk about farming quite a bit here. That would be absolutely key. I'll be quiet now. I spoke a bit. Yes, Nathan.
That's
sorry.
Okay. Genuine Fock Bob. Yeah. See, it's your own currency. You can download them off the website, fock'emallradio.com. So if you're short a few, Bob, you see, I'm absolutely loaded. I've got loads of these. But you can buy for nothing with him. But well, I like going to these places, where there's a talk. I've got this nice plush wallet. And it's called a Fock Bob. And people think, and I say, people say, would you like some money? They go, oh yes, please. And they think they're going to get a fiver, but they're not. They got that.
It's probably better.
Yeah, deranged specimen. There it is, and you can down. Yeah, see there. It's just downloadable. See, so this is a genuine one. You look through, and there's no watermark for it. That means it's a genuine one. See, so there we go. So there's your Fock Bobs, and download them off the website. So that's it. See?
Could I? You see, what we need is a Fock Bob exchange, which means that if I set one up, Eric, I'd need to know that you're not secretly printing more Fock Bobs for you and becoming the new Lord Rothschild of the new Fock Bobbery. This would be terrible. Yes. Do you see what I mean?
I know what you mean. Oh, by the way, we're quite up to date. There he is, Charlie boy. It says here. I better not read that out. King Piles. There we are. King Piles the Turd. See, so there he is.
King Piles.
The turd. So there he is. Allegedly, he's mafia, King Piles the Turd of Usury Kingdom. See, so of Usury Kingdom. That's his correct title, isn't it?
Seriously, though, one thing about the Fock Bobs, Eric, right, that could be amplified and built up is not that it actually operates as a real currency, which, of course, you see, whenever you talk about these things, everybody goes, well, what can I buy with it? And it stops right there. It kind of stops right there. But as a communications device, printed notes, right, with inspirational things on the back, quotes from history and stuff, would be phenomenal in the sense that they act as little education posters moving from wallet to wallet.
Got it.
It's more of an awareness creating thing that, look, we could do that. We're not doing it, by the way. Yeah. This is what you say. This is just a game. We're just playing a game. It's called the Fockham Hall money game. And you move these things around and all that kind of stuff,
What is usury? And it explains usury on the back. And there's the pictures there like that. And on the front, we got Charlie boy. See, done it already.
So Paul,
I'm too stupid.
Yeah, Nathan.
So Paul, you talked about us withdrawing from the banking system. At the minute, the big danger is the banking system being withdrawn from us. And we've seen it. It's happened to people who are in the headlines. It's happened to people we've never heard about. And it's going to be happening more. And the whole point about CBDCs and digital ID is it can happen to anyone, anytime.
Yes.
We aren't going to be given the choice. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. It's whether or not we've built an alternative before it happens to us. If we haven't, then we're in trouble.
Well,
can I just make a couple of other points?
Bitcoin is an alternative. It actually is, because it's not in the hands of central government. And although they are completely manipulating the price. This is the problem. It's just they've got all the gear. It's like the gold price that I just said at 3,600. It's meaningless. in some regards. And people get all giddy. They go, oh, the value of my gold has gone up. No, the purchasing power of the dollar in relation to gold has gone down. So, I mean, these are difficult. The whole thing about money becomes such a mind maze. It's extremely weird the more you look at it. It is a form of black magic because your mind is plunged into darkness when you begin to look at it. You've got all these different words: credit, money, currency. All of it, what's the difference between money and currency? Cash. All of these different terms to just describe the stuff that we want as an intermediary of exchange. That's its prime function. It's also supposed to be a store of value, which it has to be, otherwise you wouldn't receive it. If I give you a $5 for something, the reason you accept it is because you know Eric will accept a $5 and everybody else in England. Yeah, you can give me that $5 because I can go anywhere with this little printed piece of paper and anybody will take it out of my hand if I want something for £5. I can go get a bag of chips for it. £2.50 at my local chippy, which seemed a bit steep to me, but there you go. I can get 2 bags of chips for a £5. Yay, we can have a party. But so there's so many sort of knock-on things about why you accept cash. It's established and so on and so forth. You're absolutely right about being debanked. I mean, according to Nigel Farage, every now and again when he comes out of his garage, he said that he'd been debanked from, was it Coots? Which is no mean place to be. You've got to, I mean, I always find it hilarious. You've got to be of a certain wealth to bank at a certain posh bank and pay higher service charges for it. There must be some benefit. But, so the monetary thing's key, but how to overthrow it when it's in a state of such mature invasion into every part of our life, I don't know. We tried it by printing our own money, and the Bank of England got really cross with us.
Can I just change the subject slightly? I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
I'm very pleased that we've got a limited amount of time tonight, and that very big events are going to be coming soon. And forgive me, but I'd like to just focus on a couple of things that are going to become really important in the next few months. So, as we know, this year is crucial because the government is imposing authoritarianism and may want to go to totalitarianism. They are imposing a new regime of censorship, controls on all forms of protest and expression. Now, if we don't resist this, we're absolutely lost. Now, I have, perhaps a different idea to some people of what successful resistance might look like. So, they might impose their censorship in the short term, but I think this government is on the road to collapse. The reason why this is happening is because they're already failing. They're in a very unstable situation. One of the things that will defeat them, and this is why they've got the censorship, is just to keep on talking against them. Matthias Desmet, in his book, The Psychology of Totalitarianism, emphasizes the importance that we've got to keep on putting the counter narrative out there. We've got to prick their bubble, let the air out of their balloon by keep on telling them it's just not true. This is a battle for truth. They want to insist they've got a monopoly of truth. Only their version is real. And we've got to keep on denying that and insisting on what we know is real. For our own sanity, if nothing else. But no, it actually will defend our future and our society. It'll defend ourselves, as Matthias Desmet keeps on explaining, from descending into the nightmare of totalitarianism, which is always accompanied by a terror. Right? We're playing for very, very high stakes here. We're playing for our lives. We're playing for having a life worth living, definitely. But, we might actually get killed if we don't resist this. Resist through speech. So we've got to have a clear idea what this situation demands of us. And we've got to start getting off our knees. We've got to start becoming active. We've actually got to start getting together and mobilizing for lawful action, for effective, lawful, peaceful resistance. We've got to get together. We've got to form groups. One of the things we've got to be mindful of is something called digital hygiene. So, I don't know, since there have been these modern smartphones and since people have been carrying them, they don't seem to have any idea how dangerous these things are, that they're listening to us all the time. So how long has it been now that there's been this issue with phones listening to conversations? You know, they listen to something that you've just said, and then you get an advert for it. It's called listening to ambient noise. They don't seem to realise that the government's listening to that too. And they've got a device that's analysing your speech and working out what you're saying. They don't have to have people listening to your phone. Computers do that for them. They've been doing it quite well for some time. They transcribe what they hear into text, and then that gets analysed. These devices are incredibly dangerous. The other thing people have got to realise is this thing about metadata. Metadata is just seeing who's talking to whom and how many messages that they're sending to each other, how much traffic there is. Does this person know that person? Are they together? Can you put them together through the messages and the communications that they have? This is how government works out, as I said earlier, who you would turn to if you were in trouble. You must, I think we at this point have to realise we all need to know somebody that we can turn to if we were in trouble and that the government doesn't know about. This is what digital hygiene is about. You do not send messages to everyone that you know. There are some people that you communicate with only the old-fashioned way, personally. We've got to start waking up to the danger. We've got to get organised in a way and start thinking in a way that we haven't. The world is about to change. It's going to change this year, whether or not it changes exactly next weekend. We know they've got this agenda. We know they've been pushing this legislation. We know they've been putting through things like digital ID. We know it's coming. We've got to work out what we're going to do about it. Here we are, we're talking. I know it's constructive that we're talking today. The people that we're talking to, the people that we're listening, who are listening tonight, you've actually got to start doing something about what we're saying. We might be talking here, but personally, we don't just do things. We don't just talk, we do. We've been doing this for decades. We've been trying to show you how to do it. And people are just, they're repeating what we say, which is good. I'm glad you're spreading it and talking with your friends. You've got to do something as well. This is real. This is not the future. The future is now. It's actually coming. This is happening. The stuff we've been warning you about, it's coming to the present right now.
Yeah, spot on.
It's no longer hypothetical. It's arrived.
But there is an alternative, though, Nathan, to the internet, which we haven't looked into, and that is the mesh network. which is a new thing that's starting. I don't know if you know about it, but it's very cheap.
People
and
have
it
been
daisy
talking
chains.
about it for a long time.
Well, there's a chap, strange enough, in Hartford, and the way it works is it's over a radio network. It's very difficult for the government to tap into it because each unit that you've got, it's like a phone, say, it transmits it acts as a radio mask as well as a receiver. So, if, for example, I was going to send a message, you can't speak over it. You can only send a text message. I'm going to send a text message to, say, yourself. Now, I'm in southern England. You're in northern England. It would daisy chain. It's distance is only 5 miles, I think it is. You can go 5 or 10 miles. So it daisy chain all the way up for all the people that's got the Nest network to go. And I'd know when you've got it. And then if you sent me a message back, it daisy chain all the way back, and that happens in seconds. And they've even
So it
tested
works.
it on the tube.
It works on the same way that the internet used to work before they centralized it into supernodes to be able to monitor the traffic.
Yeah,
it works the way Skype used to work before they centralized the traffic. Skype used to work on peer-to-peer communication, not going through a centralized network. And so it was completely free of jamming and interference. But then Skype was bought by Microsoft and they reconfigured it. However, the point is, Skype demonstrated the principle works.
Yes, it does. And
we have a video platform at the moment that does exactly the same thing. One of the technologies is called BitTorrent technology, which basically uses multiple machines that it just selects in the moment to actually move packets of data around. You don't even know it's going on. It's incredibly smart and totally decentralized. I've looked at loads of these things. There was one that came out of Scotland years ago, but they never get their act fully together. It's as if I'm wagging the finger at them. I was just coming back to what you mentioned when we were talking about the Quakers and their business sense. And I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago, that we need to be set up as a business. Although I don't do a 9 to 5 in an office, and although from a geographical location point of view, that would be a bit dense. Oh, they're all down there at number 26 Belvedere Avenue or wherever it is, right? The fact is that it would help. And there are so many tasks. I've got loads written down on a to-do list that I'm never going to have enough time to do. And the first thing that everybody needs to, or certainly for me, my issue has always been I can do it all. And you go off and you plow through loads and loads of things, but I have to stop and stand back and go, if there were 5 or 6 of us, that group size you were talking about, Nathan, we wouldn't get 6 times as much done. We'd get 600 times as much done. It goes through the roof if it's coordinated, because things happen much more quickly. And what that does is it energizes every individual, because we all begin to see things happen faster. The mesh network thing, we're talking about it. We need pages of information about how listeners here can set one up, and for clubs to form. I think club's a lovely word, like a peace club. And the parish peace clubs, it doesn't really matter what we call these damn things, but we've got, there's 15,000 parishes, and we've managed to get a mesh network operating in 2,500. And can we get the other sort of 12,000 done this year, please? And this is what you need to do. If that would work. The thing is that even if it didn't work, even in terms of its technical results, even if that were not to provide the results that everybody wanted, the act of coming together and working in groups is the actual real benefit, because there is so much strength that you get from people on a similar wavelength. You're looking for your tribe, and we don't have to look far. England's full of my tribe. It's full of it. I know most of them are dormant, but if you give them certain things, it's like if you were to categorize people in terms of their ability to step into this arena, you could have someone at 10, they're ready right now, and you've got lots of people at 1, 2, and 3. And you have to say different things to the people down at level 1, 2, and 3 to get them up to 4, 5, and 6, and then to move to 7, 8, 9, and 10, and over here. So the amount of communicating that is required is considerable. There's a huge amount of it, because we're facing this 24/7 media pulverizing machine that's literally filling people's heads with crap all the time. And it's a convenience challenge. This is the great. I think this, this is the great thing that they've got on their side. Convenience and habit are so powerful. I've really been thinking about brands recently. We know of them from advertising and marketing. People get used to brands to such a degree they literally can't change. They can't. Like if we're running this thing on YouTube now. If we were to say, look, tomorrow we're going to run it over on a PeerTube instance, and I'm not having a go at the audience here. I'm just pointing this out. I'm exactly the same, right? Very, very few people will click the other button. I've known this from years of just looking at this stuff. You go, why? All you have to do is press that button. People don't. They go, no, it's there, and I want to be on YouTube because that's where everybody is. But actually, I would suggest that everybody that we're addressing aren't really on YouTube. In fact, we're looking for the people that don't want to be on it. And one of the things that's built up around the internet, because I was sort of I had an email account in 1992. This is 33 years ago. It's a long time back. And it was very different in the 90s. We talked about this recently, before all of this sort of super gearing up and moving it into the commercial, when Amazon came along, whenever it was, late 90s, early 2000s, and started selling books to start off with, and how it's taken over, all by design, of course. It's an entire military industrial complex thing. Jeff Bezos is no smarter than my local tobacconist, and he might be a little bit, but they're selected. These front guys, and they get all this sort of stuff to do all this kind of gear. There were so many creative technical solutions to things back then that they were all I tended to see, but it gets swamped out of your sort of attention range. You get overwhelmed. And what we've also got here, we've got truth fatigue. We've got it. There's truth fatigue. There's so much of it. You go, how much more do you need to know? How much further down do we need to drill into this stuff? Listen, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody because I drill down and I can't stop. I've been doing it for so long. I want to drill right into the bottom of it and go, there it is. There's that little thing I was having, 3 weeks later or whatever. It's not a good use of my time. A good use of my time is going to be, and I've been threatening to do this to myself and I'm just getting it back, is to walk around the 3 or 4 key streets where I live and knock on everybody's door and say, hello, I'm here. I'm concerned about this. I'm expecting some pushback. But I'll give you a story today. This is quite interesting. I went out for a walk. I get to the end of the road here, about 200 yards away, and there's an older chap than me, even older than me, walking down with his sausage dog, right? And he just crossed the road, and we just met at the corner, and we were both walking down towards the seafront. And we just got talking. It was great. He just couldn't stop talking to me. It was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant. He wanted to talk about the country and everything, and he was just unloading everything. He was really a really intelligent guy, very good communicator, lots of energy, must have been in his mid to late 70s, was in great nick. And I said, do you mind if I walk along with you and ruin your walk? He said, no, I want to keep talking. So we went down to the beach, walking, his dog's running around everywhere and doing stuff. It was brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And this is why I've mentioned it repeatedly. Whenever I'm in checkouts or anything, I just turn to the person who's near to me. I go, you're in my space. Obviously, it's arranged. I'm going to say something to you. And you can tell almost instantly whether you've got a live one. And there are so many live ones. What we're needing, I suspect, is a little bit of structure, some business discipline so that things get done on time. So that, for example, when we talk about mesh networks, we need to be able to say, and this is how you do it. Click this link now, go over, you're going to need 240 quid. Everybody's going to go, I've got 240 quid because it's about that much or something. I was looking the other day. And it's to look at whether anybody in the nearby area want to get one going. If we think that that's a sensible thing to do. But as I said, even if it isn't, the fact that you connect with somebody else to start working on something, anything is good. Like the sprout sharing and vegetable sharing network that we need to have from our gardens. We need to have one.
I agree. Yeah. I'd like to add, though, that what we're saying, that most people in chat like us are active. So we're actually aiming at outside the chat. So please don't take it, because I'm very proud of the people in chat. To me, it's like a big family. So, and the other thing I was going to say is, if you want to know about the Mesh Network, go on to YouTube. There's a chap called Andy Kirby, and he lives up the road to me. I don't know him, but he lives up the road to me. And Andy Kirby, he covers all this. And I think it's about £27. It doesn't cost that much to buy one. It's very cheap. So that's one thing. Also, what I would say is if you're forced to sign anything, like if you're pulled in by the police, because now I think any innocent person can be dragged off the street. I really do believe that. Um, Always, if you're asked to sign something, put VC before your signature, capital V and a capital C, and that in Latin means vici actus, which means under duress. So that if they say, "Look, you've signed for this," any court will throw that out because it says yes, because they put VC in front, which means under duress. So that's a little tip.
Yeah.
The other one is that as for alternative currency, the gold back. Now, people have heard about the greenback, which was implemented by Abraham Lincoln, but there's now in Florida someone printing the gold back. And what that is a paper note, or I say paper, loosely it might be plastic, and it's backed with gold. So that gold, that note, if you buy it from America, and you can buy quite a few of them, they're very low price, £10 or £5, something like that. That can go up in value as the price of gold goes up in value and down. So once you've bought it, it won't lose it's a smaller denomination, but you can go into a goldsmith and they will see that it is genuine gold. So it's a gold back. But my view is to use silver coinage, which we've already got.
Doubloons?
Yes, which we've already got. And you've got sixpences and things like that. Use the established currency, but in coins. That's a little idea. And I mean, for example, a silver sovereign is £36, and you can buy half sovereigns. Not sure about quarters, but we've also got it in our change. I've got loose change here. Why can't we lose that as our own currency? What can they do about it? It's plentiful. Just a little thought. And also, if you are dragged in by the police, there's a book that Nick Griffin has. I'm not sure he's published it, but it's on his site, and it's what to do if the police drag you in. And I've read it. You can download it free. And in my interpretation, you've got to read the book yourself. So please don't accept what I'm saying. It's my interpretation is that you say no comment to every question the police tell you until you get your solicitor in. Your solicitor will speak for you, but it's no comment, no comment. And the police will try everything to trick you into speaking to them, but everything is no comment. And anything you say yes to is a cup of tea or something like that. So so go on to Telegram and go on to Nick Griffin's post, and Nick Griffin, you can download it from his post. And that's my service. That was it. That's my public service announcement for this evening. So now,
a lot of good advice in that book.
You read it?
We've been talking about in our local stand in the park. Yeah, the people in it. Yeah.
Are there many Tommy Tucker supporters in your stand in the park?
I think there are a lot of people all over the place. They're wondering what they can do. They support him because they don't know what else they can do. They're not being offered an alternative. What we offer is perhaps, slightly nebulous. See, people like simple solutions. They're very attractive. The things that are more difficult are perhaps require a bit of work, a bit of involvement. People like the idea that somehow they can go to a rally and that'll change everything.
It won't.
If only if it was that.
Well, that's right. I agree with you. They seem to like having this, like what I call it, a knees up from a Cockney's thing at a rally. But the thing is that there is very small things we can do, because every one of us is on the front line, a peaceful front line, hopefully not an aggressive one. And I like that idea that Paul said. I think it was Paul said earlier there's a rally organised, nobody turns up. That would really gut. So all the police standing there, and there's no one turns up. Or there might be one bloke with a placard walking along, and that's it. You know,
So was it in summer 2021, in 4 consecutive months, there were marches in London against the lockdown that each had 1 million people turn up?
I think it was.
4 consecutive months, marches of 1 million people.
And
the
nary a
government just
word in the media. Yeah,
the
right.
government, the media, everyone just ignored it. So if a march could really change anything, a march of 1 million people, 4 consecutive months should have changed something, but it hasn't. The civil servants went back to work on Monday in Whitehall like nothing had happened there over the weekend.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
I think there's possibly, as well, in our thinking, room for two things, or maybe there needs to be, or two sort of paths. One path is to get your local group together and make it as strong as you can so that you can work with one another to defend yourselves. That's one approach. In other words, a small numbered specialized approach, which is required on the taking the view that vast majorities of people are in such a deep sleep that it would require several atomic bombs, if they existed. Of course, they don't. Several very large bombs to wake them up, and that no one's got the energy for that. I think that's absolutely sensible thing to do in terms of your immediate space. The other one is to put some attention on the idea of creating a nationwide movement, of course. Now, everybody then immediately assumes it's political, which ultimately now everything is. Even your thoughts are political. You can't think things. You've got to get arrested for that. But I'm going back to that thing I'd mentioned before, Mary Whitehouse and the Consumer Pressure Group. That's a peaceable thing. That's not based on violence. It's based on people getting together in very large numbers and saying, we are not complying with this. And there needs to be, the peaceable approach has got much greater reach than anything else. Most of those people that do turn up on Saturday will be probably, they're not that thick. They won't want trouble either. Although there'll be a part of their mind that tells them that they ought to expect it. There will be a small minority that will be going, possibly agent provocateur, to bring that exact thing about. I think that's the great fear. But it's worth having both going on at the same time. Might be no bad thing. Like not all your eggs in one basket. That you really do need to work locally. As I said, I would love to have a sort of support group here in the 2 or 3 streets around me. And if I could find a way of it's almost like if you find a mechanism or a communications pitch that works, it needs to be shared rapidly, because it's sort of like on the micro level that's really important. 1-to-1, can you say something to the other person so they say, I've mentioned this before, I'm completely in, what do you want me to do? And I go, I don't know, but I know that you want to do something. Great, we're off. That's the key thing. It's that attitude of wanting to act is the first thing. The attitude.
What about the political party? Sorry, I didn't mean to chime in on you there, Paul.
No, it's all right.
You had this bloody good idea, and that is the political party that can never be elected. So we have policies, and actually have a leaflet that we give out to people.
I've been writing more of them out, Eric. I've just not got around to recording them. It can't be elected. The political party that does not exist, but that you may wish did exist, once you've heard what it has to say. It's an absolute mouthful intentionally to get it across. Because if everybody here that's listening, if you were to sit down with a pen and a paper or your keyboard or whatever, start typing out the most extreme policies by today's standard that you want, the things that you want, right? And then have a look at them. They're breathtaking when you write them all out. Yeah. Because people here we are against everything that comes from central government. Everything that they do is absolutely designed to ruin our lives. We're against all of it. We're against migration. We're against central control through banks. We're against every single thing that they're doing. Their involvement in wars. They're sticking their noses into places. The ruination of our industry. Their energy policy. They don't have one. The propellers that are going up everywhere that are crap. The ruination of our industry. Right? Every single thing, the buildings that they put up, which is a big bugbear around here, these hideous things that are part of the demoralization process, the clothing standards, the crap on TV, the music industry, everything that's modern and progressive is shit. All of it. And even if it's not all, you might as well just wade in and just have a go at everything, because you won't be far wrong. If you say it's all wrong, you're going to be 90% right. And that's what I say about the news. I said, it's 90% wrong. All of it. I can't be bothered to figure out the 10% where they're telling the truth. They can stick it up their ass. That's the problem. It's not a good use of our time. We know that. Write it down. You'll be shocked at what you write. I'm serious. You'll just go, oh, I'm a maniac. That's why I said I'm extreme, etc., right wing. We want that vision of that old way of life where family is at the center of all policy making, and it's not. It's not. It's actually the center of all destructive forces is to destroy families. The first cohesive and mightiest product of civilization is the family. There's nothing even comes close to it. When you stop back, you just all take it for granted. We all take it for granted. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a period in England where I was in a great one. I didn't think of it in those terms. I just loved my mum and dad, right? And I was surrounded by lots of people who also had really good, strong families. We don't have that now, all by design. It's not that people are worse. So we've had this massive conditioning program going on for 50 years, and this is where we've ended up.
Absolutely spot on, and that's it. And I think things used to be, when you look at, say, the 1940s and 50s now, none of us were around then, but in the 40s, but it was all very family orientated, wasn't it? And cozy and warm and nice. And that's all gone. It's very sad. Very, very, it really is. And well, I grew up in a nice family atmosphere as well, and I should think you probably did, Nathan. Mum and dad, that, and
Yeah.
But it was a very cozy time to wake. I feel sorry for children today, because we were brought up in a very cozy time. I mean, we're all three of us are of a similar age, and that's what we're in our 30s, aren't we? But no, seriously, I think we're very lucky to have been brought up in that time. It really is. But
I can remember when I was 11 years old, meeting a kid whose mum was divorced.
Yes.
And being shocked at how unusual that was.
Yeah. We've talked about that, Nathan. Absolutely shocking. My mum and dad were appalled when it happened to someone. That's not allowed. It's not. What they introduced, no fault divorce. You can forget that. I tell you, the political party that doesn't exist will make it almost impossible for you to get divorced, unless you're in fear of your life. In which case, absolutely, right. So, but it's all about weakness. When you accommodate any whim, any hurt feeling, you produce weak people. And it's this thing you do. That's why we become weak. Like, everybody's talking about their rights, a thing which I've maintained here don't exist. There's no such thing. It's just a victim menu as far I've got rights. Yeah, great. Why don't you just do your duty and uphold the laws of decency, which are the things that used to hold us together naturally? Nobody went around questioning it. It wasn't even an issue. People just behaved normally with one another, and kindly and strongly when necessary. And we've talked about it in all these sorts of cultural erosions that have taken place. The fact is that they went at women first in many ways with the feminism lark, and this has been devastating. It's not empowered women, and it's weakened men. I mean, I heard something the other day as well. This is just a simple observation, just another sign of it, another aspect of the symptoms. You know how a lot of younger men or males that you see, possibly on YouTube, they all speak in a slightly effeminate, soft, overly articulating way. Do you know what I'm talking about? Hello, all this kind of stuff. It's all very clickety and precise. They're speaking in a feminine way, right? Females naturally speak in a kind of different cadence with a different sensitivity. They're wonderful at it. They're far more gregarious than men. Men, we want to go in the cave, right? We want to go in the cave and wrestle with things intellectually or whatever we want to do, or leave me, I'm building a hovercraft, that kind of thing, right? Women are much more gregarious and far more sociable than men. Wonderful. That's why when a man marries a woman, he gets dragged into social situations because he needs to be. Seriously,
Yeah.
where you learn different things. It's a different sort of thing. Because they have supplanted nearly all the male newsreaders, I thought this was a really good insight. All the speech, the vast majority of speech that you hear now through news is all females talking all the time. And this has resulted in males not talking like men. They don't talk like men used to talk. They're all soft little, gentle, delicate lisps about things. Not enough mightiness and force and masculine energy in their speech. You can feel it's all gone. Look at Starmer. Holy moly. He's a joke. He's a joke. Maybe Trump stands out because he at least talks a little bit like a man, even though I think he's a completely dodgy geezer. They all do, right? But I just think back, if you go back, we've talked about politicians maybe back in the 60s and 70s being better. Yeah, this is all contextual, right? In relation to today, it's not saying much. But they did at least, apart from Roy Jenkins, talk like men. Think about Enoch Powell.
Roy Jenkins, sorry.
Yeah, Roy Jenkins. And I love everybody and all that. Roy Jenkins, my dad detested Roy Jenkins and all that kind of stuff. But they talked like men. They sounded like men, right? They acted like men. It's all gone. Even all the newscasters, right? They used to all be blokes, right? So it's the feminization of all things has produced weak men and many women, not all of them, that have lost their way. And this is by design. They've attacked us through attacking the women. It's not the women's fault, but they attacked the women first. And this is another key part of it. I think maybe, local little clubs, for want of a better phrase, we might be able to bring back these traditional things that we used to do, like shouting at one another. No, I don't mean that. But,
I know what you mean. I'm trying to prove
Yeah.
on this show. I mean, for example, we had people with opposing views, but can agree on respecting the other person's point of view, even if they don't agree with it. And we've done, we've done some pretty good shows where we've got that, and I like that because at the end of the show, people think, "Oh, without shouting, they put over some very good points." We had one flat Earth and round Earth, and both sides put on really good points. And I tried to sort of be moderate in between. But I think that's really what has happened. I think society is in shock. I really do believe they're in shock. And what shock does, and we're hoping to do, this is strictly between us three. So everybody in chat, please put your fingers in your ears for a moment, please. Oh, and viewers, fingers in ears, please. Nathan and I might be doing a show on why people are so immature. Right, okay, you move your fingers now. And quite honestly, when you're in shock, if you go into shock, you revert to childhood mentality. Very much childhood. And I know I'm going off at a tangent. And I think
no, you're not. I think it's spot on, Eric. I think you're absolutely spot on with this.
Yes, and this is the thing. They're keeping everybody in shock and in fear, so people remain in an immature state. I really do passionately believe that, because you look at what we got now. We've got the news coming in at us 24 hours a day, and it can get you down if you don't walk away from it, as I do. I remember the late great Dave Starbuck. Now he was a self-employed journalist, freelance. And he said that sometimes he had to just walk away from it for a couple of hours. He says, otherwise you're going to start crawling up the wall and going mad. He said, and this is what we're getting now. And then, I mean, look at that thing on Sunday at 3:00. I didn't get it because I turned it off on my phone. Bloody warning sign. That works on your subconscious. And all the time, they're working on your subconscious all the time.
I saw a story on you mentioned the Daily Skeptic, Nathan, a little while back, and their podcast is very good. Get some tremendous interviews on that every now and again. And we play that whenever I pick them up on Radio Soapbox. I can't tell you when, everybody, because it's just part of the soap mix. So when they come through, they get played. But there's an article in there right now, which I haven't read it. But the headline is that the £25 million that they spent on it was a terrible failure, but it wasn't. The actual communications thing was the information that there was going to be one. There didn't have to be one. It's the fact that they think it's important. If you actually saw the warning notice that came through, get ready at 3:00, that was the communication that counted, not the event. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether your phone goes off or not. It was the fact that you are being heightened, your sense of fear and anxiety. What's this major disaster thing? That's what it counts. You're being pump primed to be sensitive to the next crap they dish up. It's where, next week we're going to look at where we're doing a thing to look after you more. Why are you even telling me that? Why? There is no public forum to say, stop wasting our money. We want our 25 million quid back. Right, it's 25 million quid worth of taxes you owe back to the British public. You've just wasted. It's subtle how it works. It's not the actual content. It's the context that they're selling all the time. The context is, we're here to protect you. No, you're not. You're destroying us. By their fruits shall ye know them. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes. DJB2, feminism was created to double the tax base and destroy the family and enrich governments and the other people that government borrow from. Yes.
Well done, Eric.
Yes. Got around that one pretty easy.
Very good. 10 points.
But the thing is that this is the problem. They're financially crippling us all the time. And it seemed to start big time with Blair. Because Blair, he told people initially, and he's doing the same. He did the same as what Farage is doing now, telling people what they want to hear. And you notice Farage is saying the same word all the time. This is the change that we need. It's definitely change. We're going to come along and produce change. Bullshit. That's how Obama came to power. Oh, this is the change that we need. There is no change whatsoever. It sounds good, and it's all telling people what they want to hear, but never delivering on the goods.
As I've said before with the political party thing, hi, we would like to, the honest communication is, we promised all this change on the election trail, but I have to inform you that as an honest communicating party, now that we are in power, I have to tell you that we can't do any of those things. They were complete lies. We were lying to you just like all the other parties were during the election process. We can't do anything because your government has never been in control of this nation. That privilege rests with the banking cartel, the money power of the earth. If you want to help this political party to get in charge, please assist us to overthrow the private banking sector. And then you get killed the next day.
That's right. But when you think about it, like the sexes, who built what modern society in the world was men. But who was helping those men? Who was bringing up a family? It was the women. And men and women should complement each other. And what they've done, they've divided the sexes so they're at war with each other. And when you think about it, you look at the Victorian times, all right, it's a little bit extreme, but the women played a pivotal role and the men played a major role, because who built the steam engines? Who built the buildings? Who designed the buildings?
The women are the hidden power behind the throne, where where most of the power lies, and men want them to have it in that way. We want them to have that power back. I do.
The supporting role.
Absolutely. And women are practical. Women are more practical than men. They get things done. They have to manage budgets and do stuff with houses and make sure that all the children are fed and that the beds are clean. And people dismiss it. Oh, it's just of a house. It's absolutely vital. It makes for a happy home. And a happy home produces well-adjusted young children that grow into well-adjusted youths and adults, because they come from a good home where the women are demonstrating care and concern their entire life. It's phenomenal. And no one ever talked about that. They just talked to them and said, oh, you're being done out of money. You could go get a job like a bloke and all that. And of course, they've been sold a bill of goods about a life that leaves many of them just having a puppy walking around. They become dog and cat ladies. And there's all these blokes out here. I heard a stat the other day, suicide rate in England, right? In England or these islands, of men between the ages of 45 and 49. What do you think the suicide rate is? Men in this country, 45 to 49. What do you think the suicide rate is?
Bloody high.
25%.
What?
25%. So you walk along the street, and if you walk past 4 men, and they're all aged between the age of 45 to 49, one of them's going to top himself. 25%.
Well, do you wonder why? Because they were saying that, they're going to bring back conscription, so that young men will have to fight in Ukraine. Now, on the battlefield nowadays, I don't know whether you've seen that film, but there's a chap made a film about the battlefield in Ukraine. There's drones around. So you'll be in a lorry or something like that, and there's a drone following you. And there's another one nearby. And they'll wait until you stop the lorry and get out, and then they blast 9 bales of crap out of you. And even...
I think that's a key part. Do you know what I think, though? I think it just goes back to this attack on women. Fundamentally, although because I didn't grow up in this area, so I don't know it, men and women are not, I suspect, are not dating like they used to. I could be completely wrong. So someone say, Paul, you're out of, I don't know. I'm just making this up. But I suspect it's the misery of being alone. There's a yearning in men to build families just as much as there is in women. They want to fulfill that role. It's amazing when you get it. For me, it was the most amazing years of my life. And I'm so thankful because you are at that time as rich as you're ever going to be. It's got nothing to do with money. The problem with the rich is that all they've got is money. They don't have anything else. Everything else disappears out of their life.
I
they
agree with you.
Split up, don't they? I need a new all that. I split it with my wife after 3 years, and we divorced, and my kids are over here. But it doesn't matter because I own a jet or something. I mean, it's just their lives are full of stupid toys and all this crap. But working class and middle class families that raise good families build the greatest thing you can ever build in your life. You'll never build anything better than that. It's magic, and you must remember it as a child. It's unbelievably good.
But men are generally emotionally unstable, and it's the women that stabilise the men. Because who writes all the poetry? Most of the poetry. There are some women that write poetry. Mainly men do love poetry, because we can't express ourselves the same way as a woman can. A woman can burst into tears. A man, traditionally couldn't do that. And it's the old saying: if you graze your knee, you run to your mum. And she'll give you a lot of love and kindness and bathe your knee and make you better. If you want your bike adjusted, you go and see your dad, and he'll adjust your brakes on your bike. And that was the traditional role. Men were the practical blokes. My dad was always making things and repairing stuff in the house. And I've carried on, hopefully, his DIY sort of mindset. I never get a repair person. I repair everything myself. Even
because we like to build things, don't we? We're blokes. We go, wow. I saw something the other day, right? We were talking about deserts. I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, right? We were saying about good projects in the world that could be done, which never get talked about. There's so much good stuff. There's a lot of desert in China. A lot. Yeah. Right? It's a big place, of course, but there's a lot of areas. Is it the Gobi Desert? I don't know. There's a big desert there, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, they've come up with a simple way of dealing with the desert, which is just because I was talking about reforesting the desert. We could do it easy. But Bill Gates is never going to talk about it because he's deranged. He's a psychopath, right? These guys are just want to control what's there. They don't build anything new. They pick up all these genius things that we've come up with. They turn them into business and they use them to oppress everybody else. This is a pattern over and over again. They got a polythene tube about 18 inches in diameter, somewhere between a foot and 18 inches in diameter, right? Tons of it on a big roll, very thick polythene. There's a lot of sand in the desert, right? They fill these rolls up with sand and they lay them out on the desert in a grid formation. The grids look to be about, say, 50 foot by 50 foot all over. Why? Because it stops the desert wind coming in and disturbing the top of the sand. They can put plants in there. The plants don't get blown away in these houses. And it's like a protective barrier. You use the sand and contain it with polythene, which is durable for 40, 50 years. You can start to reforest the whole place. Now, that's worth doing, isn't it? What about that? Yeah. Nothing. And this is what gets blokes excited. They go, wow, I could contribute to something like that. And that's going to produce more food. And then that might produce more stability. Unfortunately, we've got this political class, the control freaks, who get in the way of everything good that we've ever come up with and use it and weaponize it back against the people because they're nuts. They're running on a prehistoric psychological program about control and power. And we go, we don't need that. We've actually solved all the problems, you dimbos. But we can't apply these solutions because they go, I've got to run it all. What?
Yeah. And they're impractical.
We're dealing with. Yeah.
But again, you look at these people, look at the Parliament. I don't think as many MPs has ever done a day's work in their life. It'd kill them if they did. They don't know what it's like to work. They go to university and they study, was it political studies and other such, things like, I don't know, the sex lives of camels or something, and then they come out and become a politician. I mean,
all by design, though. I think you could turn it around quick. Honestly, I do think, and by quick, I mean 10 to 15 years. That's quick. You could. I mean, as we're talking about families as well, the idea of clubs or whatever should be about enhancing family life. When you think about it, you'd have the men there, you'd have the women there. You could talk about this, you'd have their children there. You could start to get the children exposed to the right ideas and sound thinking. Homeschooling is the way to go. Of course, they're going to draft laws to do that in as well.
And have our own police force. Now, this sounds a bit weird, but there's an
peace force, our own peace force.
Peace force, and there's a Hell's Angel, and he is a very kind man. He look when you look at him, you think, well, I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley, but he's not that type. And he says, if a woman, he's starting a kind of network. He says, if a woman is in fear of being raped, or if there's children in fear of being dragged off or molested or something like that, they phone this number and they're like Minutemen. And he said, just our presence alone calms the situation down, because they're Hell's Angels, big blokes, and they're you wouldn't argue with them, but they're not aggressive. They're full of peace, and that they're doing the role of what a man should do. They're protecting the women and the children, and that's what they do. But I think that role can be extended when you get these bailiffs coming along, because the government wants to steal your property and things like that. We should have Minutemen that come along. So if there's 20 police there, 40 of them come along and politely tell the police the law and tell them to please go away and stop upsetting people. And, and literally be polite, but tell them the law. And there are peace officers that do that. And I think it works. There's no aggression, no violence, but they know the law and the police don't. So that's the difference, and I think that's what's necessary. I think we need our own police force or peace force, and
it's like I was saying, if you had a home guard, for want of a better phrase, for every parish, there's 15,000 of them. That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's it.
We need a parish consumer pressure group. Make your parish great. It's all local. It focuses on your neighbours, and it's the shortest lines of communication. And you could meet them in the park without your mobile phone and talk to them.
That's right. That's right. And you have your little mesh network as well. So again,
mesh. Yes, yeah, I've got my mesh network. Have you got a mesh?
And Marlene says yes. And when I say peace officers, PEACE officers, and they dress just like the police. So they're dressed like them, and what they do, for example, if a bailiff comes along and wants to take your car, what they do, they generally put a clamp on your car wheel. This peace officer has got his own clamp, and he clamps the bailiff's car. So they can't move either. This is okay. So you take the clamp off my car, I'll take it off of yours. But it's staying there. And it's all polite, it's all very nice, and because let's face it, if you're in debt to someone and that debt is sold, for example, if you don't pay your council tax, they sell that debt eventually to these what they call it, debt collectors agencies. So once you've sold that debt, the debt's paid off. So when the debt collector comes on knocking at your door, you say, well, thank you very much for paying my debt off, goodbye. That's it. I mean, I hope I'm not sounding like a barrack room lawyer. I'm not. I don't have any.
We might need many barrack room lawyers. Maybe barrack room lawyers are going to be the solution to a lot of things.
Yes.
Can I mention there was an organisation in the United States. When these debts get sold on, they don't get sold at the original face value. They get sold at pennies on the dollar. So
Yeah.
this organisation was buying up people's debts for, peanuts. Now the debt collector would try and recover all of it. This group, they bought them up for say 5 cents on the dollar, and they just cancelled them. That's it. Clear the debt.
Excellent. And who ran it? Bernadette? Sorry, that's a terrible jag, isn't it?
Oh, I wish I could remember. I
Oh.
do remember. So it was part of just removing destructive debt from society, the
Yes.
debt that couldn't be repaid,
But
that
I
was
should
destroying people's lives.
Now, what's Paul saying now? There is more of them than there is of us. No, there isn't. As the population has been brainwashed and sorry, mate, I'm terribly sorry, has been brainwashed and traumatized to submit to the authority. Please accept my apology. I read that incorrectly. So I'll read it again. There is more
He's
of
making a good
them
point.
than there is of us, as the population has been brainwashed and traumatized to submit to authority. Again, please accept my apology. I read that wrong.
So he's making a good point. One of the first things we need to do is overcome our own servility. So we've internalized this idea that we're inferior and we've got no power. So what's the idea of going and having a rally in London? The fundamental idea is that you're kind of lobbying the government. You're trying to appeal to them to change what they're doing. That's servility.
Please, sir, more. Can I have some more, sir? Please. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and really, we've got to try and withdraw our power and our attention from them.
Yeah.
And by the way, it never works. Where if you ask a bully to stop bullying you, it doesn't work, does it?
No, I mean, basically, they're marching to say, will you, instead of painting our jail doors blue, can you paint them red, please?
Yeah.
The mere fact that you're protesting is an acknowledgement of your servile condition, that you think that this is the only way to deal with it. It's an actual, it confirms the very opposite of what your conscious mind thinks is going on. It's your subconscious knows exactly what's going on, and you're being weak. It doesn't work. It's never worked. And they always end up in a melee. The ones that are written down in history always do that. There have been so many. There was the Chartist movement in the 1800s, which was based on extremely sound principles. But the power of the day, I don't know where this power comes from. I think it must be the aggregated civility of everybody else that's not animated. This is why, if you're not on this side, you're actually against your own people. Silence is consent with the enemy. It just is. It's just logic. It's an engineering logic. It's not a personal sort of subjective criticism. It's simply an observation. If you don't, it's like the thing, if you don't rebut an accusation, it stands. You have to rebut it. And it's so we need to become the great rebutters. We need to rebut everything that they say, everything that they do. We need to do it in teams, because that way your energy will always be good and you'll say it with a smile on your face and peace in your heart. And an AK-47 in your back shed in your garbage.
Yeah. And you never lose your temper. And I know what gets me is at local authorities, local councils. I don't like the word authority. They say, you've only got 2 minutes to speak. It should be, we pay your wages. We'll take as long as we want. And when we say jump, you ask our high. Okay? Because can we withdraw paying your wages at any time we want? So shut up. Listen to what we've got to say, and that's what we should say. That's our attitude should be, you are a public servant and we pay your wages, so we'll spend as long as we want to say what we want to say. Because the local council, they don't do what people want. They're as corrupt as hell, and they're not providing what the people want. That's the real fact of the matter. The county authority is supposed to be in charge of the roads. The roads are an absolute terrible state. Nothing seems to work. You can never get through to anybody because now it's all computerized. And what they've done now, if you go down to the local authorities, you cannot get into the building. It's like Fort Knox. You have to stand in a lobby and pick up a telephone and speak to somebody in an office.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And Paul said Elton John would enjoy rebutting. I should think he would. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. That's good. We haven't had one for a few minutes, so I'm glad
No.
you got one in there, Eric.
No toilet humor this evening, is there? You know. Well, we're coming to. It's getting. We're about 40 minutes over their time. We're having a bloody good
It's been
time.
great. I've really enjoyed it, Eric. It's been fun, and it's been good to meet you, Nathan. I've really enjoyed what you've had to say. It's been great.
Nathan, can we drag you on kicking?
Mutual. It's mutual.
And can we drag you on kicking and screaming? You know, come on, Nathan. Come on, you come. No, come. Can we drag you on again, please?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's great. Actually, I've noticed that your voice is slightly out of sync with your mouth. So I think that's suffering from foreign film syndrome, isn't it? When you get so you say, "Good morning," you know. what's this one? Well, the pin says Elton John got a part in Panto this year. He's doing Aladdin. Sorry.
I do think, Eric, that really the not so secret weapon of humor will be vital. It's the most aggressive thing that we've got in this peace movement, a real one. And it's not a peace movement against the government. It's a peace movement for us to be at peace and to not be ensnared by them and to find these natural defensive barriers. I think peace is the way. So roll on the humor. It's key.
When Keir Starmer comes out of anywhere, we should all be whistling the Laurel and Hardy tune, dum, da, dum, dum, da, dum, dum, da, 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 dum, da, da, and just laugh at him. Just absolutely laugh. Can you imagine him doing a speech and everybody's going?
There's got to be. Isn't there a good song about sausages? Because when he said, we've got to save the sausages, it's still his greatest faux pas. There's got to be a good song about sausages that we could play.
Save the sausages, you know.
Yeah. It's sad. What a ruined, wrecked, useless individual that is. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just atrocious, isn't it? So,
can you imagine? I've often said this, and our board people say this: going back to the trenches in World War One, or going on board the landing crafts in World War Two, just approaching Normandy and showing them, saying, "This is what you're fighting for." That's just that's not worth it, mate. No. How many would have gone over the top? I wonder. Or how many would have gone up the beach on Normandy? So, if they'd only known, because quite honestly, what's in power now is, to me, a disgrace to our ancestors. They're actually urinating metaphorically on our ancestors' graves. That's really what they're doing. And also, they're destroying not only our lives, but the culture of immigrants as well. They're destroying both cultures, because I want to restore culture. If I went to South Africa to see Zulus, I wouldn't want to see a bloody Scottish tribal Highland jig, would I? I'd go there to see the Zulus doing their tribal dances. And if they said, well, it's a multicultural society here, so now we're going to have a load of people in kilts doing the Highland jig, I was thinking, well, I'm going to... Well, I go all the way to South Africa. I want to go up the road to Scotland and see it. I mean, that's the thing. People's culture and their heritage is very, very important, and they're destroying the heritage of everyone, and which is sad.
Revolutionaries.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on. It's been fantastic, hasn't it? It really has. I've really enjoyed this. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And
thank you.
It's gelled perfectly. And unfortunately, it just goes straight off on Rumble because I'm also on YouTube as well. But if you could put your thumbs up, that'd be great. And also subscribe. that'd be fantastic. If you're feeling generous, as they buy me a coffee, that I'll be able to sort of be able to drink coffee instead of water on the program. Nobody joking. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody in chat. Fantastic, and all I got. I don't know if Paul or Nathan, you got anything to say before we sign off this evening? Anything?
I've just enjoyed it, Eric. It's been great to meet you, Nathan, again, and I think the conversation's been really. It's had some good thump in it tonight. It's been good. It's been a different sort of conversation. I've really think we've come across some constructive things, and it's time to do more. We just have to keep doing more instead of telling people. You show people. You don't tell them. You show them. You go, this is what I'm doing, and that's it. So there's loads of things that I've got on my to-do list, and I'm just going to be doing more. And I think more conversations like this are good because, for me personally, it keeps my morale up. It's very important.
That's important. And
the world is going to look very different in a year. We're going to make it different. We're not going to accept what they want to do to us. We're going to resist.
I agree. And I think the first thing we can do is break into the House of Commons and put whoopee cushions on every seat filled with gravy.
It's a TV special. It's got to be a TV special.
That'll get people interested in politics, wouldn't it? Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh and good night.